Hello, this is the January video chat. Uh, have a few announcements, not too many. Let's see. Well, yeah, the most of the announcements already have their own videos, but the UK petition is up to stop publishers from destroying video games, and we've already cleared the 10K mark, like the day of this stream. So, again, to really settle this, we want to get to in the UK, we want to get to 100K. So keep encouraging people to sign it, regardless of what the answer ends up being. Like, uh, let's see the next announcement. Oh yeah, we have a Discord open now for Stop Killing Games. I wanted to. That's been going pretty well. I think there's been some organization have some possible outreach and actually one thing I left out of the video because that video was kind of short notice actually. uh Another thing we're doing there is compiling that list of all the games that have been destroyed or would have been destroyed, uh so because we might be able to submit that to a consumer agency through this meeting I had with this advocacy group in the EU. That might be a backdoor way to do something on this issue. I'm not holding my breath on it, but apparently they want statistics in order for them to maybe investigate it more or follow up on it. So there's been a group effort in trying to crowdsource how many games have been destroyed, that sort of thing, uh, or games that would be destroyed if it wasn't for the community coming up with stuff like cracks or server emulators, that sort of thing. So. And let's see. Oh yeah, a couple people emailed me about this. Apparently, and I confirmed it at least on my end. Apparently, there's a lot of games on Steam that have stopped working due to DRM. Some of the titles I remember off the top of my head were, I think it was Risen 2 was on there. I tested The Darkness 2. One of the XCOM games, I forget. Somebody wrote me a list, but anyway, this one was kind of, I had mixed thoughts on this one because none of the games that were on the list I consider like truly at risk because cracks are available for all of them. So if someone was really determined, they could get them working again. But if you're just a legitimate customer, yeah, I tested the Darkness 2 on it. It wouldn't run. It gave the error back on it. Apparently there's this giant like 50-page thread on Steam about it. So none of these games are truly at risk. However, in terms of consumer rights, this process is extremely similar to what we're facing with games that are truly destroyed, where you bought the game, the change was made on the publisher end of it that you have no control over, and then now you can't run it. So my thoughts on it were that maybe we could mobilize on this, but I'm a little bit hesitant for a couple reasons. One of them, well, a big one actually, is in a later email I got. Somebody said that they went through Valve's tech support and they offered them a refund. So if they're doing that, I don't know if there's much we can do because that's just way too weak of a position. If they're, yeah, we broke your game, here's your money back. It's like, well, it's only, then it's not financially incentivized, and I would imagine most agencies would consider that a reasonable stance. So the other is, if this did get a lot of attention, Valve strikes me as the sort of company that would probably resolve it not long afterwards, and then that would be another way it would just sort of kick the legs out from under any sort of consumer movement on this. But what it made me, if there's something else like that where the game does not, or the game's like, technically safe, but if you bought a legitimate copy and it's just dead because they killed the DRM server on it or something like that, that might be a fair candidate. We almost, in those scenarios, you almost want a company that's not going to do anything about it. So because if they're willing to respond, well, then consumer agencies consider it resolved. Whereas my entire point of focusing on the crew was to use this as kind of a missile for games being destroyed in general. So on that issue. Oh yeah, I have another announcement. This is what I call the abuse of power part of the podcast, where it's just stuff I'm my own whims that I'm pursuing. I'm trying to find a piece of maybe lost media. And I can describe it, and I'm pretty sure somebody watching this is at least going to have seen it. And maybe it got backed up somewhere, or maybe it didn't. There were these comedy shorts where I think it was called by like That Phone Guy or Guy on a Phone or something. And he'd be holding a phone up to his head, and you'd be catching one end of his conversation. And I remember one of them, he's in a business environment, and he's saying like, no, we're not going to boil the oceans this quarter. It's like, no, we talked about it with the board, and we decided, yeah, we're not going to boil the oceans this quarter. And another one, I remember he was saying like, well, pound for pound, Arby's is still the number one provider of roast beef sandwiches. And there's like this pause, and I can't hear a word you're saying. Like, it was just kind of these surreal comedy shorts, and I think this came out in like mid to late 2000s. So if anybody knows if those still exist, or better yet, backed up a copy, let me know. My email's rosswscott@gmail.com. Oh, and there was a twist to some of these. The resolution on it was low, but if you looked at it carefully, you could see in one of them, he's not even talking on a phone, but had his like wallet flipped out and was just talking into his wallet. So again, they were just surreal comedy shorts, but I liked it. And I remember I was talking with someone, and the topic came up. Like, I remember that, not going to boil the oceans this quarter. So hopefully those are enough clues that somebody knows what I'm talking about. Maybe if we can get the exact name of these, maybe they're on Wayback Machine. I don't know. So, let's see. Well, I'm seeing a few impromptu questions. The problem with those is, unless I have just a quick answer ready, I have to basically stop and think, just like, I'm not sure to give you a good answer. So I was saying, were they live action? Yeah, it was a guy, he had glasses on. One of them was in an office. It looked like they were just kind of in an office space, so. But yeah, the question was, what's a joke you enjoy no matter how many times you come across it? I'm not sure, but probably it would be along the lines of slapstick, The good slapstick doesn't really get old with me. So, okay, yeah. So I think those are all my announcements. Someone's asking, is the movie still in the making? Not at the present moment, but it's been stalled. But 100%, that's what I want to get back to. So yes, it's still on. It's just got the whole Stop Killing Games thing just stalled so much. Yeah, thankfully that's winding down because on my end, because I think everything's in play that I wanted to kind of launch off, and we mostly just either need to signal boost or wait on other things. So yeah, no, don't worry. The movie is still on. It's just I'm not working at this exact moment. My plan was to try and get a few more regular videos out to kind of give a cushion for people who are upset I haven't had more videos out, and then try to spend just like, honestly, maybe a month or two just on the movie, getting like the foundation up and going, so work can kind of basically try and solve all the hardest problems on it. So I won't wait until it's done before I resume other videos, but I kind of want to get the framework completely done. And then I could just kind of work on scenes in between then. So, let's see. Okay, yeah, so I guess I should answer the question submitted now. Oh yeah, actually, no, two things I want to mention. One, on Discord, it was a minority of comments, but some people were upset that we were choosing Discord as a medium to try to organize. Here's the thing. First off, I'm kind of a Discord novice still, even though I kind of used it privately between volunteers last year. Um, I found it useful for that purpose, but that was much more focused. For public Discord, I mean, I know it's popular, so I'm just trying to go with the flow for whatever is likely to support the most amount of people to help organizing. So, yeah, because like some people are concerned about like censorship, others are about like privacy. You could be completely right. That's not the goal of this, though. So, yeah, in fact, there were a few bans. Yeah, I think like 3,700 people went to the server. I think one of the moderators told me we had a total of 9 bans. Even if you've been banned, if you think it was erroneous, guy running the Discord offered to review appeals. So if it was just a screw up or maybe you hit a typo and it turned into a word you shouldn't have put there. Yeah, his Discord name is Spagelo, Spagelo. So you can contact them, say like, hey, I meant to get in here, but I had problems with it and got banned or kicked or whatever. You can try again. So I think there were a few people who were just trying to go in there to just sort of stir things up. I'm not trying. The other thing is we're trying to run this, we're especially trying to appeal to people in the EU. And there are stricter regulations about like language and what can be said or not there. So we kind of have to err on the side of caution. The purpose is not to censor everything left and right. And I apologize if there's any crossfire in that. That said, some topics are more kind of understandable. You run into censorship than others. And our focus here is really just on like stop killing games. So stuff like laws in different countries, preservation, outreach, that sort of thing. So these aren't really topics that like invite themselves for more controversial issues that could get people censored, sort of thing. Like if this was like a real town meeting, if people wanted to like argue about something that was like super controversial, I'd say, but not really related to what we're doing, I'd kind of ask them, oh, hey, maybe you can go in the next room about this while the people who are here for what we're here for can focus on the main thing. So my style is not to like shut this down. It's more just we're working with imperfect tools. I mean, yeah, again, I'm not even the one running the Discord. So anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there for people who are kind of upset about it. I'm just trying my best here. It's not like a larger conspiracy to like cultivate groupthink and shut out all opposing opinions or that sort of thing. No. I mean, you do have to conduct yourself in a civil manner, but that shouldn't be hard to get your point across at that. And another point I wanted to make is, to that extent, I noticed on Reddit, whereas where people submit the questions, there were definitely less this time. Now, there could be people who are just less interested in these video chats, which is fine. Then it's organic. I don't have to worry about it. But it sounds like Reddit can be more restrictive, too. This is only anecdotal evidence, but a friend of mine was posting... he did some research, and he found that his car was kind of transmitting information constantly back to the manufacturer, like from his digital control pad, and he wanted to disable that. So he got his hands dirty and figure out how to like basically stop it from transmitting. And ironically, he said that the controls used to like lag before that, and after he did that, it's like they were instant. So it's like I was waiting on like a confirmation, like outgoing signal before it went to the next step almost. And he posted instructions on how to disable that on Reddit. He got his account banned after that. And I noticed with Stop Killing Games, a lot of mention of like stuff early on with the crew or later the Citizens Initiative. That got kind of, a lot of those get shut down or deleted or banned, that sort of thing too. So I can believe Reddit is not the best place to do this. Again, my attitude on this is I'm just trying to go with the flow. If all we really need for these questions is just a way people can submit questions, people can vote on them, and it's not like easy to like stack the votes on it. So, somebody can't put like 500 votes for one question with just a quick script or something I mean, maybe you can on Reddit. I don't know, but so if there's a better site for doing that, we could switch away from Reddit. That's the only reason I'm using it. So I just wanted to throw that out there. This isn't. I'm not an ideologue for any of these programs or software. So okay, so now I'll get to the questions. Let's see. Any games you really love, but for some reason or another don't want to make videos about? Yeah, in general, any game that just I don't think I have much to offer. I was thinking also probably Nintendo games in general, just because Nintendo tends to be on the more on the warpath towards fair use than average companies. For example, I love Super Metroid. I don't think I have much in the way of insights on it, so and it's a Nintendo game, so I probably want to cover it. Say for Donkey Kong Country, I think that's an amazing game, but I'm not gonna have much fresh to say on it. So, I mean, I maybe could if I like really tried, but it would probably just be repeating things you've already heard a bunch already. For non-Nintendo games, there's probably some more, but I was thinking maybe Subnautica because I'm thinking that's another one that I don't know if I'd be saying much that people haven't already said. So I think it's an amazing game. I think it's fantastic, but so I'm trying to think of things that like maybe aren't as well known about it, or I just have a very different perspective on it, that sort of thing. Let's see. Oh yeah, this is a question for the chat too. What video game would you be able to have the most fulfilling life in if you were trapped in there forever? I feel like I'm probably forgetting one, but I think I've been asked a variant of this before, and some of the answers I came up with, they're a little more pedestrian, but they're like kind of relatively safe. You're probably not going to die in them. Is one the Helios ending to Deus Ex Invisible War? That would be an interesting society to live in. And I think I mentioned Journeyman Project because assuming we don't get time screwed up, then that seemed like it could be a nice place to live. Though I think I was still a little bit short on details, but so many people are saying games I don't know. They're saying Brute Force on Xbox. Oh, they're probably talking about the previous question because there's a delay. So I'm saying Guardians Crusade. I don't know that game at all. Night and Baby in Japan. I also don't know that one. Let's see. Somebody's saying The Sims. Well, The Sims would be a bit pedestrian, and yeah, I mean, it's hard to say. I guess The Sims could be a lot. I haven't played past the first Sims, so I don't know how much it changed. But from what I saw, I guess The Sims could be a lot safer than even the regular world. Or you could be, if you wanted, you could become a conqueror almost in The Sims. But yeah, I'd have to think. I mean, I wouldn't mind a game where, I wouldn't mind a universe where you could travel to different worlds, like in space or something, but the process was relatively safe. That. See, somebody's saying World of Warcraft for you. Well, do you have magic? Are you a trained warrior? I mean, you're probably going to be a peasant if you're in World of Warcraft. And I mean, I guess some routes are safe enough, but let's see. Okay, somebody's saying Starfield, maybe. I've only seen some footage of Starfield. It didn't win me over, but yeah, it could be more exotic for sure. But yeah, this is one of those where I'll probably think of the answer later and then forget it again by the time it's another video chat. Okay, somebody wants to be a Morrowind shop NPC. If that's what you want. I mean, you could almost live that dream or come close to it if you could get like a business set up in a place like Disney World or another amusement park, because you know, being a shop NPC, you're still just standing behind a counter waiting for people to come in the store or just killing your time otherwise. It's just in a fantasy setting. So if you could be in a theme park, you know that you could come pretty close to that dream if that's what it is. So I think there actually is a game where you get to play as a fantasy shop uh, keeper where I don't remember the name of it, but like the idea is adventurers are coming in and you're selling them their gear and potions and stuff and making it so it's like a business game, but just you're on the other end of the sort of stereotypical fantasy adventure side of things. I don't remember the name of it, but you could probably find it. Yeah, so I guess the idea is you want to. I mean, the answer would be I want a universe that's like as exotic as possible, but reasonably safe. You know, and I'm trying to think of like which ones that qualify. And when I say exotic as possible, I still prefer having like some grounding to the world we know, so you could have conversations with people, hopefully, and it's not just like a complete abstract madness kind of thing. Someone wants to live in Ace Combat's strange real universe. You get to see a horrible modern war every week and then have a fighter jet crash into your pool every other month. Let's see. Yeah. I think there was a scene in Hot Shots or maybe the sequel where they drop a bomb and like I think they had Saddam Hussein by the pool and like he's just in a lawn chair and he catches the bomb that's dropping on him or something. That's what that reminded me of, that answer. Somebody's saying Pokemon universe. I don't. I never really got into Pokemon. I barely know anything about it, so I can't really attest to that. Somebody's saying Turok universe. Get sent to postal brain damage universe. You figure out how to survive very quickly. Okay, somebody's saying Discworld. That's one I still need to catch up on, but yeah, Discworld might be a candidate. Let's see. Okay. I don't know if mods can do this or not. The automatic mod held a question. Oh, okay, well, people are seeing what they got held for. I was thinking, well, no, that's just the AI misinterpreting what was said. So, let's see. Okay, well, yeah, feel free to keep brainstorming on answers for that, though. It's a good question. Do you have any painful truths you want the world to know? Well, I see a lot of the world kind of on its own sort of trajectory that I can't really influence, but I guess a couple. I thought of one or two. Well, one is like sort of I would call it like the great problem of humanity is that I feel like historians can probably back this up. I feel like every civilization that hasn't that didn't collapse due to external factors basically fell to corruption over time. And that's a problem I don't think we've solved. Like, you know, with corruption, because I feel like even if you came up with utopia today and like every single person was on board, give it a couple generations, someone's going to be hoarding power or imposing some fascistic rule or just allowing really important processes to fail, that sort of thing. So, and it's usually due to like basically corruption on some level. So I don't know how you solve that. And it seems like that's, in my eyes, that's like one of the most important problems to solve. So yeah, I guess more of a recognition of that. Though I guess another one that I guess it's reasonably well known, but it might just be sent us in circles, even if everybody did know it. Like our entire economic system is just like the thought that came to my mind was like a house of cards built on top of quicksand, and like even not getting into like the deep levels of it. Like one figure I read a while ago is like the derivatives market alone is worth about $2.5 quadrillion. So in other words, more money than exists on Earth. And this is just kind of the norm of things. And it's just like everything about it's unstable on like a long term, like on multiple levels. But that was just like one example of it. So I'm thinking that would, oh, somebody's mentioned Rayman universe. That might not, that's not a bad pick. So, I mean, I don't know. It could be that's just looking more at a symptom rather than a cause of problems. I think the biggest one is like rooting out corruption. And I don't have a rooting it out and then keeping it that way. Yeah, because we can solve corruption on some levels, but keeping it that way, that's the part that we're just horrendous at. Yeah, in fact, I remember a quote in one of my criminal justice classes. This one lady was, I forget if she was actually a prosecutor also or a former prosecutor, and she said something like, we don't catch the smart people, like, and I remember that line kind of stood out with me, so if someone's really good at crime or covering their tracks, they don't necessarily get caught and they just kind of keep going. So, somebody's saying like to live up in the clouds, like in BioShock Infinite. It's like heaven in real life, clouds all around. Imagine living up in the mountains is similar. I think it'd be neat. You probably would get more radiation that way over time, but it may not be too big a deal depending on how high up you are. I mean, I don't think you'd want the BioShock Infinite universe itself unless you're prepared for a lot of dangerous situations. But there's some other games like that. Like there's one called Airborne Kingdom, but there's another one. I forget the name of it. There might be like 2 or 3 where these are like calmer versions of it. They're like kind of city management where, yeah, it's all about flying cities. So no, it'd be pretty cool to live that way, but let's see. I don't have any others at the moment. Well, no, there is one, but I think it ties into a later question, so I'll save it. Okay, yeah, here's a good example. Somebody's saying, before playing Cyberpunk 2077, you said that you would know the city like the back of your hand in less than a week. It's been more than a month, so do you? No, that's not what I said. I've noticed some of these questions and comments a lot of the time, it's like the game of telephone, where you say one thing, it comes back completely different. This isn't completely different. What I'm pretty sure I said was that I want to eventually know that game like the back of my hand. I don't know if, unless I'm just really tripping on what I said. No, my long-term plan for it is I've beaten the game and I feel like I've gotten all I want to out of the story, but I don't know like every last alley or road and everything in Night City. So if I play more of it, I kind of want to do it in VR and just take like the full tour, like as though I'm there. And if I'm doing it in VR, that might be years off and on that I'm playing it. Especially because with VR, at least right now, I can only do about like 20 to 40 minutes before I'm getting kind of motion sick. So it would have to be in kind of, increments like that. And I wouldn't be in any rush for it. So yeah, I know I do plan to do it, but no, I'm not trying to like speed run the exploration. I feel like it's not as fun then. I just kind of want to take it in, I might listen to something else while I'm kind of walking through the world, that sort of thing. Let's see. All right. So no, I haven't gotten to that. I'm putting Cyberpunk in VR on the back burner for maybe 2 reasons. One is that I think I want to upgrade my VR headset. I'm still kind of waiting on the right one because I want a bigger field of view, and almost nothing has come along that's better than what I have from just years back in terms of field of view. There's a couple though, and the other is, even if I have that, Cyberpunk's a really demanding game. It's possible my card might not hack it for it in VR. So I don't know. Maybe it's fast enough, maybe it's not. And yeah, that's kind of discouraging that I've been following the new 5000 series from Nvidia a little bit, and they're just about they're using almost identical. That's a good way to put it. The same connector as before, the one that would actually lead to melting if it wasn't plugged in just right and the loads were high enough. And I think the new one is supposed to have better like sensors on it, so I think it probably won't melt, but it will be more likely to just black out on you if the temperature got too hot. I don't know. I'll have to wait for people to guinea pig that. Oh yeah, that was another thing I noticed. The 5070 has about the same teraflop performance as the 4070. The teraflops aren't everything, but traditionally they're not a bad metric of how faster or slower a game is than just normal raster graphics. So, but I'm not sure that's ever happened before where the same model, again, between the 4070 and the 5070, it's almost the same performance. Because I mean, yeah, I'm sure they have a lineup of games that have like special optimizations for that card that they can say, hey, look how much faster it is. But like if you were to just take like some game that wasn't optimized, I'm really curious how the benchmarks are going to pan out for that. If I'm not misremembering things, which I could be, I think the 900 series was a little like that, where the teraflop performance wasn't that much bigger, but the performance really was. So maybe there's some other tweaks to it, but yeah, see, somebody's talking about in terms of performing improvements with DLSS and frame generation. See, that's another thing. I want to run this with a VR mod. I think it's possible the VR mod won't work if you're using DLSS. And if that's the case, yeah, I'm probably not going to be able to go back to Night City in VR for a long time, or it'll be a low resolution if I do. But because I had to use DLSS when I was running it on my screen, otherwise there was plenty of choppiness. So yeah, if DLSS and frame generation doesn't work for the VR mod, then you're only stuck with raw performance. So yeah, there's a great video on the, make a note of that, on the connector with the 12 volt high power connector on the 4000 series that gets into like the technical aspects of it, that like even if it works, which I mean it obviously works for most people, but the question is that going to work for like 5 years or 10, if you go real long? You wouldn't want to do like a rendering job or something, or AI processing, then come back overnight and the computer's smoking. Um, but here, I'll give a link to that video. It's kind of technical though. It's not exciting for most people. But somebody said something to me that just stood out to me, and I can't unforget it. It's that they're putting more power through smaller wires and bunching them together compared to the old connectors. So I think AMD and Intel are looking in to see if they consider the connectors safe, though. Let's see. So he's asking if I plan a game dungeon video on Cyberpunk. Probably not, but I don't know. I don't think I have many novel thoughts on it other than just I think the tone of it says just that I kind of want the game dungeons to be kind of more fun one way or the other. And my tone on Cyberpunk is kind of like, I'm honestly kind of a little disappointed with the writing on it. It's like I don't know. I felt like it didn't live up to its potential, but I don't know how true it is to like the original Cyberpunk tabletop game though. So it could be I'm a, they were going for authenticity and that's what we got. And that was, I, I feel like it had a lot of missed potential in the sense that, excuse me, the world has like this kind of wild aspect to it and just a little over the top. And the game, the atmosphere and the writing should be a little more fun than it is. Because, like, I think in the past I compared it, like, what I was hoping for would be something more like, what? Like, if you want a grungy or something like The World in Quarantine or, more fun. Yeah, there was this comic series, Transmetropolitan, that were these are all dystopias, but they're like a little more wild and over the top, and I feel like that fit the mood they were creating, the world that the environment created better. Or what was the other one? Oh yeah, RoboCop. RoboCop is a dystopia, but it's also over the top and more fun mixed in with it. So I feel like it needed a little more fun to it. So yeah, it's was somebody saying Batman Beyond was one of the best cyberpunk worlds I've ever seen. I, I do remember some exotic architecture in it, though. I remember Batman. Wait, no, I'm okay. I'm mixing. Okay, for some reason my brain interpreted that as Batman Begins. I'm actually not familiar with Batman Beyond, so yeah, maybe. And I was gonna say Batman Begins had some cool Gotham architecture, but I kind of like, in terms of just architecture, I kind of like the Tim Burton take on Batman, but where it's a little more over the top with like the Gothic setting in Batman, that sort of thing. Well, maybe I need to look into Batman Beyond then. You know, yeah, I find that's when I like comic book stuff the most is when it gets more and more exotic. Um, so like, so like the like with Marvel stuff, the weird stuff where they're messing with like the fabric of reality or have weird alien races. I tend to like that stuff more for comic book because it's just like, yeah, let's go nuts, and I don't know what to expect. So, uh, let's see. Do you have any favorite examples of developers managing to save their game from a live service death? What about fans bringing a game back from the same? There probably are plenty. I don't know the details on lots of them. Well, one I know a bit is I think Star Wars Galaxies. I think the reason we have emulators of that today is because the developers illicitly leaked code to it. So yeah, I kind of have to give kudos uh, if they were just going the extra mile to kind of make sure under the table the game isn't destroyed. I have a lot of respect for that. I mean, obviously, I can't condone that officially because I'm not trying to get anybody to break the law, but it's like it's an example where the law is wrong. You know, the game shouldn't be destroyed. Um, for fans bringing it back, I know there's been some Herculean efforts with server emulators, but I'm not sure which one has been the most challenging. Like I think one of the ones for Ultima Online was like really difficult from what I understand. I mean, of course, I'm really happy the crew is getting treatment like that because, yeah, actually, with the crew, uh, one of the developers working on the emulator, he released some screenshots where he was able to tweak the lighting or remove the filters or something. And oh man, he had. I'll try and link to that too. He had a bunch of screenshots from around the world, and oh man, it looked a lot better. Like the art direction, I was thinking, yes, this is what they should have been doing instead of what they did with Wild Runs. So just so I really think when they complete the emulator for it, it's probably going to be a better experience than it was than while it was officially supported. Ironically, so but yeah, for Dead Games 1, I want to try, and I, I haven't gotten around to it, but apparently there is a prototype kind of server emulator for it, so maybe I can at least run around and see the world. Is Darkfall. That's one I was thematically, I liked the look of it and kind of wanted to see that world, and whoop, it's dead. So but thankfully there is, I think there is a rough server emulator for it, so that's something. So that's probably the one I want to check out the most at this time. So let's see. I saw a lot of comments on the Gothic video claiming you underutilized the skill trainers, especially the sword trainer, then called the combat jerky. Any thoughts on this? Okay, this is something. Okay, well, the first thing is that episode, I had time pressure on that one, and that was one where even then the episode I felt like was going on too long. So I was just looking for anything to cut on it. If I had more time to throw it out, it's not as simple as you put it. It's more nuanced than that. I remember this is something where some of my knowledge may have worked against me, even since it was, because I remember in the game, you go from one-handed training with the sword to two-handed training, and all the two-handed weapons do more damage. So I knew that I was just going to progress to that anyway. So in my mind, I was thinking, well, the skill points are really valuable. You know what? I trained in the first level of one-handed combat. I'm just going to save the skill points, go straight to two-handed, and just use the bow to fill in the gaps. And yeah, here's something else interesting. By doing it that way, I was able to max out my strength and dexterity, and get all the bow training and the two-handed weapon training. I think I only had like 10 skill points left over, which I used on acrobatics or something, which you don't really need. So it's like there wasn't, if you wanted to max out the bow, you actually don't have that much wiggle room. So that's one aspect to it. Two, I think everything I said about that is true in the early stages of the game still. And I had a lot of footage where I was just still using the one-handed stuff. But the other thing is, again, I have to look at it again. Once you do get the higher level training, the combat certainly looks smoother. And in some cases, yeah, it is more responsive, but it's still not like great. Okay, like it's still janky to an extent. Plus, it wasn't just the combat that was janky. The inventory management's janky. The movement's kind of janky. You have some of the design is kind of janky, where it's like, oh yeah, like where I showed like I'm basically bottlenecked by the rice guy who's gonna kill me if I come back, and that's the only exit out of the new camp. But you can kind of sneak around on the sides. I mean, that's kind of like this doesn't feel like it was intended that way, but it's almost like they left some flexibility in case they screwed up or something. Because some developer solutions can be like that, where they can't think of every single scenario, but they kind of leave some margins where you can kind of get around things so that you're not getting kind of screwed. But yeah, so I think it's more nuanced than that. Though if somebody wants to, really explain what I got wrong, you can. But because I mean, I maybe could have been using some combos more, but it never gets great. The combat. So, or smooth and slick. Yeah, it never. Gothic combat is never that even. And also, at the very end, I had maximum training in the video. I had maximum training in two-handed weapons. So like that real janky part at the end, where the guy keeps stun locking me, I have maximum training at that point. So you can judge it how you will. I can believe I maybe missed some nuance on it though. Oh yeah, this is a good question. Why do you favor AI-driven reconstruction from footage over ripping visual data from the GPU for game level preservation? And they give an explanation of it. Okay, well there's two aspects to this. it's not exactly that I favor it. It's, put it like this, I'm fully in support of just basically ripping it from the 3D buffer of the card. The thing is, I think you still come back to AI with doing it that way because of you need something to stitch it together. What I want is to make this as streamlinable as possible, where basically anybody out there could just kind of run the software, run through the map of something they want to preserve, and then the software will help kick that to Unreal or Godot or something like that. And then you can have like a template to kind of to export it to something that you can run around in or maybe build upon that. So, like if you're ripping it all from the 3D buffer, that's still, how many steps are we talking about between doing that from, from just recording you going through the game to having a workable model or map, I guess, in another game engine that looks semi good? I mean, that could be like what, 20 different steps, and some of it might take a lot of like really, really kind of advanced knowledge of the software being used to it. And that still might take stitching together. See, that's the thing. I think software right now is where I want it for like the first layer of the Dream software for just small scenes. Like if you were to just go into a map and do like a 360 view, then export that. Yeah, there are software solutions for that right now that you could export that to a world. I mean, you could export that to a game engine and then you can run around that. But that's just one small area. What if you, I mean, it doesn't really need it, but take a game like Gothic. What if I wanted to just go through the map and just record every area, then export that, and then have software stitch together all that footage and take its best guess on what the end model or map looks like? I'm not sure there is a good solution for that at the moment. Or if there is, tell me about it. So I think we might need AI for that level of it. But no, you're right in that getting it from the 3D buffer probably would be a cleaner way of doing this. Although maybe, because then you might just have really accurate 3D geometry and textures, but then you have to redo all the lighting or something like that. And that wouldn't, see, then there's like way too much manual intervention work to do that for just as many games as I want to save. And my voice is going a bit, but I think it'll come back. So you might have all the geometry and textures exactly, but then it's like a full bright level, and then you have none of the lighting data or something like that. So I don't know. The other reason, so I'm for that, but I think we still need the AI to intervene on that. The other element is that's only for games that are still active. So yeah, if I wanted to like rip maps from, I don't know, Destiny 2, that might be a way to go. But what about the games that are already dead? Well, then AI is your only option. Man, that's the problem. I wasn't talking enough prior to these video chats. Sometimes my voice kind of goes when I do that. So yeah, if I wanted to recreate one of the maps from Darkspore, that's not an option anymore, doing it through the 3D buffer. You could only get that through existing video footage or something like that. So that's the other reason to favor AI. But no, I'm not against what you're saying. I just think that needs more work also, and AI seems to already be doing a decent job of capturing the kind of like lighting conditions also. Okay. Have you kept up with how virtual reality devices have evolved since you made your original Ross Rants episode on the topic? Is there anything you would change or want to see in new upcoming hardware? Yeah, I mean, the big thing I'm looking for is more field of view. And I did a check. Man, it's too bad my voice is. It's not a matter of needing more water. I just need, I don't know, it's just some muscle needs to work. Um, yeah, so I have the Samsung Odyssey Plus, and I checked for horizontal and vertical field of view. The only ones that are meant for normal consumers and aren't worth like, $10,000 or something are the Valve Index. Um, I think the PlayStation VR 2 and um, some of the Pimax models, and that's it. Nobody is doing anything on field of view that's mainstream. Like Oculus isn't, HTC isn't. They're all going for like higher resolution and fidelity. But to me, it'd be way more immersive to be able to see more. So that's what I'm kind of holding out for. The what? The I'm still keeping my fingers crossed on Pimax. They had a reveal at CES, and apparently they have some problems with distortion, and they also have a Mura effect, which I didn't even know what that meant until recently. Mura means it's not the same as screen door effect, but what it means is it's almost like you're looking through like a dirty lens, and that there's stuff that doesn't really change with the pixels as you like move around and look. Apparently the PlayStation VR 2 is also not good, not that great for that. So if both of the wider field of view options have the Mura effect, which might be something really distracting that I don't want, I'm not even sure what the best one to get now is. The what? However, Pimax was also promising to have wide field of view lenses, I think, for the Pimax Crystal, not the Pimax Crystal Super. So maybe, and I think the Crystal, the original, had better reviews on the quality. So maybe if they come out with like the improved wide field of view lenses for that, maybe that'll be what I'll get. I don't know. So it's yeah, that's what I'm holding out for is like better field of view. Like I've heard the difference between the. I mean, there's been some other developments, but those none that get my attention as much. Like I do like how there is a transition away from like the lighthouses that like the Valve Index uses to inside out tracking, like what I have that uses, just because I heard the lighthouses can emit like really high pitched sounds that are higher than human hearing that might be irritable over time. And I was thinking, man, I did not want that. Yeah, here I'll have a link to what the lighthouses can do sometimes. Um, what else? There's something else about. Oh yeah, fingers crossed. Maybe I should talk to Tyler McVicker. Maybe Valve will announce something about the Valve Deckard this year, and it'll have a bigger field of view and be the savior for VR for me anyway. So I have no idea what the Deckard's supposed to be or not, or if maybe that ends up being like a vapor launch or something, or they cancel it, that sort of thing. Will you make a fourth game dungeon follow-up? Yes, that's part of what I've been working on, though that's a bigger one to do. Have you seen the new Wallace and Gromit yet? No, I actually didn't realize there was one. I will say the writing quality kind of dropped between like the original shorts versus the movie lengths, but it was still good enough for me to want to like, check out more of it. I still like Wallace and Gromit plenty. What are your thoughts on the TikTok ban that might be happening soon? Well, first off, I'm the wrong person to ask about this, as I basically never use TikTok. I've heard there's a few reasons it might be happening. Like, I think the reason they're giving is because of, like, oh, because of privacy violations from a foreign company. It's like, I feel like that's kind of hypocritical because then, oh, well, then are we going after domestic companies also? Oh, but no, that's completely okay. It's just a foreign company has it. So, the reasons I've heard are one, because I think like last year, especially, apparently TikTok was instrumental for spreading news on war atrocities that, you know, the US government would just as soon not get as much coverage, and they weren't really able to stop that on TikTok. And another was, I've heard Google and Meta lobbied heavily against TikTok. So because that's competition for them. So, you know, they don't want the competition on it. Um, I mean, I don't know what to make of it other than, well, I guess a few things. I think I checked both the ACLU and the Electronic Frontier Foundation came out against the ruling that allowed the TikTok ban, saying it's a violation of free speech. You know, and it could be a slippery slope, and they could be completely right. I'm not the expert on all things free speech, and there are people out there who are. Let's see, there's another thought I had on it. Oh yeah, I was saying the TikTok ban had a lot of bipartisan support I think in Congress. So I was thinking, yeah, good job on winning the hearts and minds of the youth by banning TikTok. That looks like, I imagine if you're a young person, this looks like just the most boomer thing imaginable. Like, it's kind of probably similar to how my generation looked at Congress trying to ban violent video games or something. It's like, yeah, thanks, guys. You know, like, but back in the 90s. I mean, I do think, yeah, I mean, I don't particularly like TikTok myself just because, and same for YouTube Shorts, is just because I don't like the sort of conditioning to have like these 1 minute or less clips constantly on a feed. I feel like that kind of, it's almost like an assault on my attention span, that if I got acclimated to this, then I'm not going to be able to like read a book properly or something. But that's just me. And maybe that is a larger problem. Maybe it's not. But I feel like banning it, that doesn't really feel like the best solution to me. I'm not sure what would be, but it's like, I, I don't know. It doesn't, hey, maybe some people do want to fry their attention span and don't care about that. Fine. You know, that really becomes like a kind of a collective decision at that point of society. It's like, is this what we want? And if it is, I feel like that's the sort of thing people should vote on it, you know, or there should be a lot of public input on that if we decide this is such an imminent threat to society long term, that it's going to make us, you know, zombies in the long term or something. But at the same time, let's say, but yeah, here, like, to give the other side of the argument, let's say you're at work and you have a 15-minute break and you want as much entertainment as you can get in that 15-minute break. Well, then TikTok might be perfect, you know, because it's like, okay, I'm going to watch this and I'm going to see like all this different stuff in my 15-minute break, and then it's back to work. And that gives me a lot to think about and to enjoy. And like, to me, that sounds like the best possible use case scenario for TikTok, where you have a very small window for entertainment and you just want to cram it in. So yeah, I can understand people wanting that. So again, I'm the wrong person to weigh in on this, though. I mean, it's my gut instinct is this is probably not good in the long term, but it's difficult for me to say how, and you know, again, so yeah, yeah. Just don't think that just because I don't like it, it means that okay, so therefore other people should not use it. Like I've never had that mentality on things. Like, okay, I have had that mentality lately for one thing. A friend of mine sent me a link where apparently you can buy a portable X-ray scanner, and like it's a handheld thing, and you can just get an image based on the X-ray scan. And as someone who lives in an apartment block, I was thinking, I really do not want my neighbors to have X-ray scanners, like if they're trying to find a stud in the wall to nail on, so they're sending X-rays into the rest of the apartment block. So yes, that's an example of something where I don't want the average person to have that. That's in close proximity to me, because of course, somebody's just gonna hold that up to their wall and just be blasting X-rays to their neighbor. I'm thinking, yeah, no, I don't want that. So here, I'll give a link to that to show I'm not just making this up. Portable X-ray link. So yeah, I mean, I feel like I mean, I mean, for issues of like censorship and misinformation, I feel like to me, that's always like a messy problem to deal with, because it's hard to decide like where's the dividing line that this is going too far, and even then like, and then for which audience. I feel like the best solution, just like a knee-jerk response, is to, like, the more mainstream something is, maybe the more guardrails you need, but you should give people the option to easily go into the, like, the edgier or more controversial stuff if that's what they're looking for. You know, like in my case, if I wanted to watch like a playthrough of like what Harvester or something, well, then I do want to like remove the safeguards on YouTube or whatever to be able to see it uncensored and however the game is supposed to be. But if I just want to chill, but I can understand somebody not wanting to go on there and then see, you know, like if you're just landing on like the front page of some site, you don't want to see like necessarily the most gory stuff imaginable. So I understand having some restrictions there, but and the thing is with misinformation, disinformation, I feel like that even more so you need to have like light touch on censorship where it, because a lot of times these topics that are being discussed, the information actually isn't clear. Like again, a safe example I go towards is like the Iraq War. Well, if we had a lot of like fact checkers and pushing back against misinformation, then they might ban discussion saying that there aren't weapons of mass destruction there. And it turns out that was wrong, and it probably was pushed in a nefarious manner. But once you have those systems in place to censor that, then that provides the perfect cover if the government does want to do like really illegal stuff or atrocities. Now, normally, or traditionally rather, that's supposed to be the press's job to expose that sort of thing. But there's a lot of compliant press nowadays where they'll just kind of go along with whatever the government says and don't do independent journalism or investigative journalism. So, yeah, that's messy. And I tend to err more on the side of, you know, you should risk more the bad actor who actually is spreading misinformation to allow the legitimate journalists who are unearthing stuff that the powers that be don't want them to find, that sort of thing. Where see, we're looking to another stream with a cutout chunk in the middle. No, that was I'll talk. Well, in the case of that one, that was, I think I kind of got baited into topics where it was kind of too controversial. This time I'm more aware of what I'm saying. So, um, the what? So yeah, I had another thought on my mind, but oh yeah, so for people who are really pushing misinformation or disinformation, I find the best way to combat that is to have like open discourse about it. Okay, like let's say somebody's like a charlatan or a grifter or something, and they're pushing false information. Well, the best thing you can do to inform the public is get them on the stage with like a well-managed debate between someone who does really know what they're talking about. And then like, especially for topics that aren't like the truth on them isn't particularly clear. So let's see. It is so I think it's yeah, like I keep referring back to that example of like for global warming, that one website where they go point by point and have like a counterpoint to every aspect of it that people disagree with, and then they have like different levels of explanation. Even if they got something wrong, that's a great way to narrow down where the disagreement is. And it shows like, okay, so maybe there is a problem with 2 points out of 100. So like the 98 points hold up, and then all the noise. Yeah, it become a messy problem, I guess. But and I don't have easy answers to it. But I find it's better when journalists really are not suppressed, So okay, someone's asking if it's possible to get the spokesperson and the backup spokesperson for the European Citizens Initiative on the stream. Yeah, it's possible, but here's the thing. Like, I'm not trying to be too callous about this, but I don't think that would bring us in any more signatures. I think that would be preaching to the choir. I mean, yeah, it might better inform people a little bit, but we need more outreach of audiences that don't know about the Citizens Initiative yet. And I'm trying not to focus on, because I think the only people that would care about that are people who already know about the initiative. So it's just kind of a, what? Yeah, just sort of talking to a mirror a bit. So if we're not breaking any new ground, and if it's on that level, I would rather just, talk about more fun new stuff rather than that. So yeah, I mean, it's not that it's a bad idea. It's just that I don't think it's really going to get us where we need to go. And remember, if we don't pass 1 million, maybe more like 1.2 million signatures, none of the initiative matters. It just all goes down the toilet. So it'll be like it never happened. So that's the thing. So we need like, at this point, I think we need like big exposure for that to have more progress on it. Now, if we were getting closer to the limit, I might consider that to get some margins, but I'm kind of looking at this tactically. Like if we can't, we either need some real, well, okay, we have the big promotion that should be happening this month. I'll find out. It hopefully that'll push us to where we need to be. And if not, I think the only option left is some sort of Hail Mary of some real big YouTuber or streamer picking it up that hasn't talked about it. Or we could get lucky with a chain of like medium YouTuber ones, because we basically need, what, I think it's like 2,700 or 3,300, depending on what margins we're going for, signatures a day. And we are way below that right now. So we need intervention of somebody big if we're going to have a chance at this. But hey, like I said, Discord video, even if it fails, we still have the consumer action, 3 different countries. Yeah, the way I look at it is I think we have coin toss odds in all of those countries. I think if we could pass the initiative threshold, then I would bet money on it that we get a favorable outcome. That's how powerful I think it is. But getting that threshold, that's rough. So, and I'm running low on I'm still available to talk about it if somebody thinks that'll help, especially if it's like a larger source. So, Favorite Red Letter Media videos. I'm years behind on catching up on them. They're another one of YouTubers that I just can't keep up with, but yeah, I'll I hope to eventually catch up on more of them. From the ones I have seen, one that comes to mind a lot is the Prometheus question. Yeah, questions about Prometheus or something, where the entire stream is him just asking questions. Actually, my wife and I still use a line from that occasionally, or she does especially, for some situations where he says, "Is he an expert on things that have never ever happened?" Like, she really liked that line. I like one where they had like an Avengers style fight at the end, where like he pulls a gun out and shoots Rich. I think the Mr. Plinkett videos are all solid that I've seen, the Star Wars ones. Oh, somebody's asking, did Gamers Nexus contact you about making some sort of campaign video yet? Yeah, I replied and we had a little bit back and forth and then nothing. So I figure, well, now maybe the news is kind of stale. That's what I'm thinking. If we can pass 500,000, I'll try to come back to them again on it. Or maybe I can bring up the UK petition. That might be a way in. Yeah, no, the Gamers Nexus, I'll try. They were on my list to try again. Let's see. Yeah, here's another telephone question. In other words, where what they're saying happened is not what happened. I know you changed your mind about peak oil because of what happened in 2020. Is there any other notable thing you believe that would happen that you completely changed your mind about based on news events? Okay, no, I did not change my mind about peak oil. However, I did get the timetable wrong. So I still think it's coming. It's just the estimates I read were wrong. And hey, in my defense, I mentioned in the Deus Ex episode, it fooled the military, the U.S. military also. Just lost my train of thought here. Oh yeah, for 2020. Here's the thing. Geez, maybe I'm misremembering what I said, but yes, I think the effects of the pandemic are, like, especially when it initially hit, are extremely similar to what peak oil would be like. However, we've had some recovery from that, at least for now, with supply chains are mostly working, even though inflation's probably going to keep creeping up. I think peak oil would be like that, like the days of the pandemic where lockdowns, supply shortages, and everything was kind of chaotic, except it just doesn't recover. It's like that state becomes the new normal, and then things kind of mutate from there. So maybe it happens financially first, or maybe it happens through peak oil first. I don't know. I think the outcome's going to be similar. I can't say which one happens first. It might be financial crisis might be next though, because besides the derivatives thing I mentioned, what the interest on debt payments now, I think, is the third highest expense for the United States. Like it's surpassed military spending. And as I understand it, that's just going to keep getting bigger and bigger because that's the interest on it. Like on like what? I don't know what the national debt is now. It's like 30 trillion or something. It's some number we're never going to pay back with the dollar being worth what it is today. Like, as I understand it, the only way out of that is either through massive inflation, where we just print up the amount owed on it, or we just default on the debts. And both of those are going to kind of massively devalue the dollar, I would think. And I think right now the MO is just put that day off as long as possible. Like, so this is like an unsolvable problem on the trajectory that we're on. I think it is mostly solvable with a lot of radical action, but that's not going to happen under That wasn't going to happen under either presidency, I don't think. Because that's more of an... See, the difference is that problem, it's still a huge problem for financial management, but it is a man-made creative problem. Where, these are rules that civilization has created about money. So if things are a complete nightmare state, we can create new rules. Now, that doesn't really prevent, massive turmoil from that in the meantime, but that's more solvable. Whereas peak oil, once that goes, that's kind of it. We run out, and then we only have substitutes which don't scale nearly as well. So yeah, like I've compared peak oil to, it's the equivalent of like spending your inheritance. Like if you inherited a lot of money, or you got a lottery ticket and you got all the money, well, lottery tickets, they space it out, but if you got it all at once, and then you went through that, well, it's gone now. So it was kind of a one-time thing. It's not that they're not alternatives to energy, but there's nothing even close on the scale that we're using oil at and using it for. So, but okay. So he's asking, did I hear about the Half-Life 3 news? Actually, I didn't. Sorry. Ironically, yeah. I will say, yeah, I think I may have saw something that it was canceled, but maybe they changed their mind. But I will say you're probably going to get episode 3 either way. It's just that it's probably not going to come from Valve, because I think their modder's working on the episode 3 once that script got leaked to it. So, and I think there might be more than one group working on that. Have you considered renting out billboards or advertisements in countries or regions where the campaign hasn't had as much reach as you'd hope? That is an option, but I need more help with that. I'm totally... So it's just that, like, let's say they mentioned like France or Spain. Well, great. I don't speak French or Spanish, or I speak extremely minimal French. So I can't really handle that. I need a lot of help if we're going to go that route. If we do, we may have someone who's willing to spend money on it, or if we get numbers, that we can get estimates that if we have this up there, this can make the difference. It's not, I really don't want to, but it's not an impossibility. We have a fundraiser. But man, I need plans ahead of time, this ready to go, and like estimates of how many views we're likely to get from that. And no, maybe it doesn't necessarily have to be 100%, but like where the majority of the money is going to go if we do raise funds for that. I need that laid out ahead of time. There is no way in hell I am raising money without having a solid plan of where it's going to go. And the other thing is, for these estimates, I need numbers to think this is going to take us over the million marker. Because if, let's say we get some estimates that $50,000 will get us, from being raised, will get us maybe 100,000 views. Well, that's not gonna cut it for trying to do the signatures. I mean, that's so then I'll have been taking money and losing on this. Now, of course, we can't predict everything. Like if we were like, if the signature count was like at 850,000 or 900,000, then I'm going to be more, I'm willing to take more risk on that sort of thing, but not where we are right now at 400,000. So it's, I need this stuff to line up, and I need more help on it. So, hey, that's a perfect thing for if you're listening to this and you think I've got this, or I can take care of this, this is your strength. That's exactly the sort of thing the Discord might be good for. So, and if you don't want to use Discord, you can still email me on it. But look, this is my weakness here. I mentioned before, figuring out like all the laws regarding fundraising, that's definitely a weakness of mine, because I want to be very careful about that. To put it in perspective, when I first came to Poland, for the first year, I paid double taxes because I could not figure out how to declare to the IRS that there was a totalization agreement between Poland and the United States so that I wasn't double taxed for self-employment tax. And the thing is, when I finally got in touch later with the IRS, they said just write it on the form. Like there was no official form for this taxing. And the thing is, there's always, once you get into like financial stuff and taxes, there can be all these gotchas that aren't easily known from the get-go, and you have to do a lot of research to do it. So that's like my Achilles heel. I'm not good at that, so I'm gonna need more help if you want to go down that road. And I need to believe this has a chance of working. Now you can always act independently of me. You don't need to go through me, but if you want me to like have it like officially on the Stop Killing Games train and be on that, I need more things to line up. How is winter treating you? How are the woods this time of year? They are muddy. I think we've maybe had 1, maybe 2 days. Okay, I'm in northern Poland. We've had maybe 1 or 2 days this winter where there was snow on the ground and it was below freezing. Most of the days there's no snow, and when we get snow, it's like melting immediately. So this is not traditional Polish weather, and this seems to be the new normal here. I've heard the effects of global warming can actually impact like regions farther from the equator faster, actually, because the changes are seen more quickly there, especially with like ice melting. But oh yeah, somebody's mentioning about have a follow-up on the Life is Strange music. Yes, that's been one of the holdups on the follow-up, but for sure I'll have a full report on that to the best of my ability in the follow-up. And they're asking if I ever played the rest of it. No, it kind of turned me off from it. So way too much teen drama for my taste. See, the thing is, if there's teen drama in a movie, I can just skip ahead. You can't skip ahead in a game. So, and plus there's so many other games I'd rather be playing. Have you ever played a tabletop role-playing game? Yeah, a little bit with friends. I've played some of Dungeons and Dragons, and I've played some of Warhammer 40K Inquisition. It was more as a social thing, but yeah, it was entertaining. It wasn't a bad thing to do, like, once every week or every 2 weeks, that sort of thing. Do you think Trump will be able to annex Canada? Do you ever see that happening? Well, I think Trump says a lot of things, and he has kind of a style where he just kind of says what's on his mind and sort of floats the idea and sees what sticks. My favorite example of this was earlier on, where a hurricane was headed towards the United States, and he was floating the idea of possibly dropping a nuclear bomb on it to disrupt it. And then I think he had advisors say, well, it's like, no, that's not going to disrupt how hurricanes form and will probably cause more problems. So he said, okay, and dropped that idea. I think this is more in that category. So no, I do not see the annexation of Canada. Probably in my lifetime, but definitely not within the next 4 years. I would bet against that if somebody wanted to make that bet with me. Or if there is a place to make that bet. Let's see. That said, I have heard the Trump administration talking about possibly like a lot of protectionist economic policies where they might have tariffs against Canada. As for whether he'll do that, I have no idea, because I imagine there will be a lot of billionaires who wouldn't be happy with that would voice that to Trump. And so he might call it off, or maybe just have tariffs of one or two industries where he doesn't mind upsetting people in that industry, but then keeps the others happy. Or I have no idea on that. So that could still happen. There could be economic barriers put up against Canada, but I don't think I don't think we're annexing it. No. So let's see. Any thoughts on in-game currencies that can be bought for real money? And they're saying, but could you come up with a situation where this could be a good thing? Well, not for me, but maybe somebody out there likes it. Probably somebody who enjoys gambling. For any kind of game I'm likely to play, I can't think of a single reason I would want that. So, but there could be a scenario I'm not thinking. That's another example of where I'm not trying to stop people from having that, even though I personally don't like it and don't want it. But as long as there's like, I feel like that's one of those things where it's okay to have the game be mature rated because it's too close to gambling. Like, I kind of like the idea where if that's what you want in a game, you kind of have to go out of your way to get it. Like if you wanted to play online poker for real money, you kind of have to go out of your way to do that. You can't just go to Steam, click like install, and next thing you know, you're gambling money. So I think those should be a little like, games like that should be like a little more regulated, so it's not like easy for everybody to get into it. But if that's what you really want to do, then go ahead and do it, you know. So yeah, so I'm not trying to, so yeah, well, it has no utility or interest to me whatsoever. And I think for the average person, that's probably also the case. It doesn't mean it needs to get banned, just maybe that'd be nice if that was a little more regulated, I guess. So, have you played Control or any of the other Remedyverse games besides Alan Wake? I think I've played all of them except Alan Wake 2. Yeah, I think for gameplay, my favorite would probably still be like Max Payne 1 or 2. The gameplay is really solid on those. Thematically, you know, I think my favorite might actually be Quantum Break. I liked a lot of the atmosphere and where they were going with it. And I was thinking in Quantum Break, it kind of felt like it was cut short though. Like the story could have gotten more developed and gotten a little more mind-blowing. I kind of feel like it didn't hit its true potential. Whereas, so I feel like Quantum Break could have gotten like even crazier, and I think it would have been better. Whereas with Control, I feel like that's one that needed a little more sanity. Whereas the story to Control feels mostly incoherent. Well, maybe incoherent isn't the right word, but like it feels like all the development devolves into there's some weird force that's completely not understood, and therefore everything crazy can happen. And yes, it has some rules, like weapons are associated with like symbolic objects that resonate in this, but it's explaining the details, but not really giving us the larger picture is how it felt like to me. So I don't know. Control was like a little. It was like a little too. Everything is just this crazy, mysterious force, and we don't really explain much of anything. We just kind of give details. We just give details on how some of it works. And I don't know. It didn't really resonate with me. Whereas I liked a lot of what Quantum Break was doing, and I just felt like, that'll be another one for them to like try again on. Yeah, for the story, for gameplay, I didn't like the platforming sections in Quantum Break. Those were kind of chaotic and the least enjoyable part of the game for me, where you're jumping between all these shards and stuff. And I guess that one was also a rough PC port because, man, performance on that one was rough for Quantum Break. In fact, I remember reducing the resolution and expanding it in with lossless scaling to kind of make it full screen. I definitely plan to play Alan Wake 2, but that's another one I'm not expecting good performance on. I mean, I think Alan Wake 2 is up there for, at the moment, one of the most demanding games graphically that there is right now. So, in order for me to run that at high resolution and ultra wide and everything, I don't think my system's ready. So, that's probably one I'll try down the line. Let's see. Yeah, with Alan Wake, that was one where I loved it thematically, but I feel like it almost. This is one I might almost talk about in a game dungeon. I saw the original trailer, like the old trailer for Alan Wake, and I was like completely on board because I thought like, oh, this is going to be like a psychological mystery and involve a lot of exploration, and we're gonna go around the town and kind of get clues and stuff and like get a real feel for the atmosphere. That sounded great. And then they kind of scrap that. And then they have like bits of that. And then the rest of it is just like gunning down everyone. So it's like, well, so it was a bit of a bait and switch on me with my expectations. And I feel like Alan Wake thematically would have fit something more where it's more like a mystery. Like, what is it? L.A. Noire. Like if Alan Wake was more like L.A. Noire, I think I would like it more. Like I think it better fits that because it's the sort of game where you want the mood to kind of creep in and kind of get a feel for the town and the characters and the story. I think it's better as like a slow burn thing rather than something where you're just constantly gunning people. Whereas Max Payne, it's perfect for just constantly gunning people. So, yeah, I don't know. So I think so. Alan Wake got a little bit spoiled on expectations I sort of built up that were kind of half my fault, half Remedy's with that early trailer. So someone's asking if I would suffer through stealth gameplay to play Thief: The Dark Project. Yeah, I probably will just because Thief is such a landmark game for the stealth. So I feel like I owe it just to be a little more rounded into knowing like, look, Thief comes up again and again for like one of the best stealth games out there, Thief and Thief 2. So I figure I need to experience what it's all about, so. Let's see. Okay, more questions. Someone's asking if I plan on making another Curse Farms 2025 announcements. Not really, because that was sort of a special. That was before the video chats, I think. So now I'm doing this, so there's less of a need for it. Have you seen the consumer protection wiki that Louis Rossman has started? I did hear about it. I think it's a good idea. It's sort of a much more ambitious version of what we're trying to do with the statistics on the games that have been killed. Yeah, it certainly can't hurt. Oh yeah. I'm just throwing this out there. There are two issues. Look, Stop Killing Games is kind of burn out probably almost all my activism inclinations on anything because I wanted to try to do that. So I'm not going to do anything on this, but if I had more time and energy and willpower, two issues I might follow up on that are more in Rossman's camp, I would say. This is kind of is one, Microsoft is shutting down mixed reality VR devices. Now, I mean, it's not ideal, but of course that's their right if they want to just not support it on future versions or just drop support in general on future version of Windows and that sort of thing and say, like, yeah, no, we're not covering this anymore. Okay, that's not wonderful, but it's understandable. What I think should be illegal is in order to install the drivers for that, just on old Windows, on old builds, you have to connect to them online through their portal. Like, you can't just download the drivers and install them offline. I've seen a couple posts saying, oh, you can if you do this. No, it doesn't work. I must have tried 20 times. So, and I think they're closing that down in 2026. So I think after that, the only people who will be able to run mixed reality VR devices are people who already have it installed on their versions of Windows. You will not be able to install it fresh at that point. And that's what I think should be illegal. Like, to basically brick the device because you're not allowing users to download drivers so they can run it on the platform that they bought it for. I mean, that's just so anti-consumer. But and that might fall more into Rossman's camp, because I mean, I think that's happening 2026 that they're doing that. So yeah, it's not just dropping support, because of course manufacturers should be allowed to drop support. Like, we're not asking for endless support, but to go out of your way to make it so that people can't continue running it. I mean, that's ridiculous. It would be like if like with NVIDIA or AMD drivers that you download them for the video card. It would be like if they made it so that for older, you have to connect to them to do that. You can't install them offline. And then they discontinued it for older cards. So then the only systems that could run those are ones where you already installed it. Like, it's just, it's wasteful, it's consumer hostile, and it might actually violate laws. But look, doing Stop Killing Games was such an undertaking as it is. I don't have the willpower to do it for this too. And the other issue is, speaking of NVIDIA, you know, a lot of the reason they have so much market share dominance is because they're better for AI than AMD. AMD was kind of late to the party. Well, the problem is a lot of the AI programs in the ecosystem are for CUDA only, which is NVIDIA's language. And well, hey, NVIDIA did the work on it first. They were first on the scene, so that's understandable. However, there was, I think I mentioned this before, there was development, I think even earlier this year, where someone made a translation layer, or a group, I think it was called Zluda, Z-L-U-D-A, where you could run CUDA programs, I think without having to be recompiled on AMD hardware. I think Intel was interested in it too. So NVIDIA came out and said that, changed their terms of service to say, no, you cannot run this software on non-NVIDIA hardware. And I'm thinking, that should be illegal. That's basically monopoly level antitrust crap. And it's holding back it's kind of holding back progress in general, you know, because NVIDIA is always going to have the home advantage for CUDA programs, but if AMD could run it too, well, then that opens it up for more people and becomes more people can have access to developing stuff rather than locking people into NVIDIA if you want to do that. So, but yeah, I don't have the energy to take on NVIDIA on that. And I have no idea how legal that is, or maybe it's like games as a service where the way it's being done, legal in some places, very unclear if it's legal in others, but that seems like an obvious antitrust issue. So I was saying, have you considered, either buying or lending a very good old PC for games you want to play from Lazy Game Reviews? Not really, just because, well, I probably wouldn't have to bother him about that if I wanted a legacy one, but I kind of like having it all on a modern system that I can run through emulation and just getting the right software. You can run the old games sometimes just as well, or sometimes even with bonus features. Like, so, I mean, if it was a game that you just could not run well through emulation, then maybe. But I think for my taste, the number of games that are like that are going to be very rare. Yeah, especially with because I mean, what you have DOSBox, and you have DOSBox X for old stuff, and then you have was it PCM for Windows 95, 98 stuff. That's pretty great. I mean, maybe I think the only games I could think of are games that you cannot get it running natively on Windows, either through patches or stuff like that, and would really and or in 3D and would benefit from hardware anti-aliasing. Yeah, because there's also VMware for virtual machines. So usually across all those, I can eventually get the game working. I have yet to come up, unless it was like a really freak case, like if you wanted like hardware acceleration for Descent 2 using the S3 Verge patch or something like that. Like something that's really hyper specific. But even then, I would imagine, I haven't even checked, but I imagine Descent 2 probably already has like a source port where you could just run it with all the bells and whistles and widescreen. And so you don't even need that. So I'm not a stickler for authenticity usually, unless it's kind of interesting. I'm just usually aiming for the best experience, Okay, well, I'll take more. I'll take more live questions at the end when I get through more of the others. When I get through more of the submitted questions. In the Deus Ex episode, you mentioned that there could be homegrown terrorist groups forming to fight the system. With recent events unfolding, do you think it's more likely that it will happen? If so, do you think they'll be more like the NSF from Deus Ex, or do you think it'll be more smaller scale? Boy, I have no idea, because I think the one thing Deus Ex may not have been as prophetic on was how much like control of communication actually can steer the course of history. Or, I mean, I don't mean like ultimate control, but like if you are determining that certain news articles don't get published across media or that sort of thing. And I don't know, like right now, I think there'd be difficult getting unity on a lot of issues. But, if things are really bad economically, you probably would see more groups coming together. But even then, there can be infiltration. Like I've heard for, for fracking, that there were a lot of like counties and towns and stuff that were against having fracking in their area because they were worried about, well water contamination. And I think it was shown that like some companies actually hired counterinsurgency specialists that I think they had operated in Iraq before, where their whole job was to ensure that like these town meetings and collective organization didn't get off the ground to the point where they could outright ban the company from fracking in that town or that county. I'm thinking, man, that's sophisticated stuff. I'm not sure, just the average collective organization is ready for that or can combat. So I have no idea. Let's see. Have I ever played the Cultures games? No, I haven't. I tend to prefer more ones that are more like either kind of fantasy or science fiction. The ones that are kind of more historical fiction, unless I really like the theme of the historical fictions. So. He's saying, what do I think about the sudden changes in the price of the Gothic games? I didn't realize there was a sudden change. I was using my original copy there, the 2-disc version, so with the patches. So he's talking about how David Lynch has died. If I have a favorite Twin Peaks episode, I think I saw a question asked my favorite David Lynch movie. Let's see. Well, okay, for favorite Twin Peaks episode, I guess out of the originals, I don't know which episode it was, but I remember one moment that really stood out to me was they're trying to have like this sort of, I forget if it was like a brainstorming session or just like a crime scene examination, or trying to recreate the conditions. And while they're talking about it, there's like this table laid out with like 50 or 100 donuts out there. And there's only like 3 or 4 people, but like it is just like a ridiculous amount of donuts available as refreshments for people. And I love the little touches like that in Twin Peaks. For the later season, um, what? Yeah, for the newer one, I guess my favorite episode might be the midget assassin. I mean, that was quite memorable. It was good television. But I also like little things like how the sheriff sits down at his desk and presses a button, and this computer that with like wood paneling all over everything comes up just out of the desk, like with like just wood paneling and everything. I love the little touches like that. Well, here, as for favorite movie, let me check what everything that David Lynch has done. David Lynch, when he's kind of, to be honest, he's one of those where he Twin Peaks is sort of the exception, whereas most of his stuff feels kind of like too weird for my taste. Like he'll have interesting and creative stuff in all of them, but they're not exactly like the most enjoyable watches for me. I I mean, if I okay, well, I guess he did Dune, but Dune was, I mean, aesthetically, I thought it was pretty cool. So yeah, Dune wasn't too weird, like David Lynch's version, but it maybe could have been better. Like Eraserhead was real weird, but that had fun parts to it. A lot of, yeah, Mulholland Drive. That one, I may have been too young when I watched that one. I mean, I might have just been like late teens or early 20s or something. So maybe I remember it just being so weird I couldn't really, or just so kind of like I don't know what they're doing here, that I didn't follow it very well. But maybe I was too young for it. Yeah, it's. I mean, he's, the thing is, even if his stuff isn't quite to my taste, I totally have respect for his style because it's very interesting, everything he does. So, yeah, somebody's saying Twin Peaks The Return is so perfect. Well, even Twin Peaks The Return, it's like half and half for me. Because some stuff, it's like, okay, if we're just showing weird images for like 10 or 15 minutes straight, it's like, what are we doing exactly? I mean, yeah, you can look, you can accuse me of being too lowbrow for it. Perfect, guilty as charged. You know, like so. But the other half I really do like. You know, like when Cooper's like stop, just sort of snaps, sort of wakes up for half a second and like stops the assassin, and then like that voice is saying, "Squeeze his hand off," you know, "Squeeze his hand off." That was great. I like stuff like that, but yeah, I like a little more coherency to my weird stuff than average David Lynch. But again, total respect for his work at the same time. Just because it's not quite to my taste, I can tell there's a lot of talent, thought, and what you could honestly call art in there. So, you know, that gets my respect. Okay, let me go back to the questions. In your November 2015 video chat, you said that there's going to be a video about baked sweets. I had to look at that again. Did you get around to it? No, I never did. I can tell you that's one that may have fallen into triage because it was okay idea, but not so good that I'm like dying to do it above other ideas. So I can tell you what it was about. It was a Ross Rants idea where because I was going to kind of talk about being on again, off again addict to sugar. And I was basically going to talk about how it can be kind of really frustrating trying to stay off sugar, because not only is it very accessible everywhere with desserts, but then I think I want to say the majority of processed food in the grocery adds sugar or some form to it. So it's like, if you even want canned vegetables or something, you have to check to make sure sugar is not added to it. And but one of the things I thought people would like is I was explaining how like the urges to have it, kind of being an addict. I was just gonna have like this demonic voice come in and say like, "Hey," or I'll talk about, because it can just come at me out of nowhere sometimes, where I might just be kind of walking along, and then I'll have the demonic voice come in and say, "Hey Ross, how about some chocolate chip muffins? Wouldn't that be really good? I think that would be really good. I mean, you could also have like some apple cinnamon muffins. Those are good too, but the chocolate ones would be really good." Like, and that's how I would represent it. And then on the camera, I was just gonna have like this glazed look, just kind of like that. So maybe I could still do it. I don't know. But it's lower priority than other stuff I want to make. So yeah, that's one I just kept getting too busy. But no, you are swimming upstream if you want to stay off sugar. I'm envious of people who don't who aren't addicted to it, and it's just that doesn't do like. See, for me, if I'm off sugar, having a little bit of cake is worse than none, because that like activates it. It's like what? It's like an alcoholic having just one beer. you know, no, that's worse than no beers. So yeah, and so things like cookies, cupcakes, cake, cobblers, anything like the baked sweets, those are I have to watch out. Like I've said before, I'm like it's like a smoker who's like trying to quit, like 12 times in a row, and they're on again, off again. So that's kind of how it is for me. I'm currently off. So we'll see how long I make it, because in February my wife's birthday and Valentine's Day is coming up back to back. So that's going to be a challenge for willpower. So um also oh yeah, speaking of, yeah, I guess with David Lynch, it sucks that he passed away, but I would say it is worth noting he was a heavy smoker, and that's probably what did him in. So, that's a good quote. The chat saying, "I can quit anytime. In fact, I quit every week." Yeah, it's not quite that bad. I would compare it to like waves of the ocean almost, where sometimes if I can kind of get above a certain level, it's a lot easier to stay there, sometimes for even months. But let's see. Okay, well, I'll answer more questions. I'll answer more live chat questions after the submitted ones. Just some more to go through. I think we're like 80% through them, or 70%. So saying Epic Games has just updated their terms of service, and they have a lot of quotes here. Excuse me. Yeah, they're saying there are times when a software service no longer appears on the Epic Game Store as the publisher discontinues supporting it. On the rare occasion that this happens, you will no longer be able to access the software service through the Epic Game Store. That almost, the way that's worded, that sounds like if the game gets delisted, it could be taken from you even if you bought it. That's how I read that. But they're saying this random jumble of service and license, are they hoping that if they switch terms often enough, the customer will simply get confused and walk away? What's their play here? Do you think your campaign has made enough noise to rattle their legal department? Okay, well, no, I'm certain they're not worried about the customer walking away. Like almost nobody reads these things anyway. So that question, what's their play here? If I had to guess, I'd say it's most likely related to that California bill that passed, where it says that you have to say this is a license and you don't own it, and maybe this is mixed in with it and they're trying to think of some weird angles. Do you think your campaign made enough noise to rattle the legal department? I would bet on no, because the thing is, two things. One, our entire campaign has almost no threat at all to the United States. So anything operating in the United States and how it's conducted, I don't see any of it threatening it directly. And in Europe, putting all these restrictive terms, I'm finding could actually be working against them, because that gives more fuel to the fire for Directive 9313 EEC that these are unfair terms for the consumer, which nullifies the whole thing. So, that's actually in our favor, that like the industry by and large just says that like you don't own anything. We can shut this off anytime. We can do this for any reason. We can change the terms for any reason. I was thinking, I think that actually works in our favor in Europe, because it shows that, okay, because then regulators are going to look at this and they're thinking, oh, well, this is over the top, that we wouldn't allow this in other industries. And then that gives more credence to our side. So I don't see this as any protection against that. And that's why I'm thinking this is probably related to that California bill, which I don't think it's going to do much anyway. So, okay, somebody's saying more Star Trek videos, please. If it comes to me, I'll make one. I think I might have an idea for another one, but I'm forgetting in the moment. Okay, so saying, what did you have for breakfast? Just a boiled sweet potato. I kind of hate cooking, so I tend to go for these like minimalist meals. So somebody's bugging me that I haven't had Freeman's Mind. Okay, here's the thing. It has been so long that I've done Freeman's Mind that I feel like even just releasing one is still not gonna give me a very good graces. So I'm gonna need several. So I'm trying to get myself in the position where I can make several at a time, so there won't be much of a gap in between episodes to try to, shore things up somewhat. Okay, it's sorry. I know it's not what you want to hear, but okay. What I'm thinking is I want to like get this other crap out of the way, especially like the campaign, the follow up, and a few other videos. And then once I get in the Freeman's Mind kind of state of mind, I want to just keep going at it as long as I feel like I can, until I'm just like blah, and I have to do something else. So I have no idea how many episodes that would be. So I'll try my best. But yeah, it's going to be a little longer. Sorry about that. And yes, you can thank. Look, I never wanted to do the Stop Killing Games campaign. Nobody else stepped up on it in like a similar way. So, or that was in a position to. So I constantly feel like I drew the short straw. I'm like, somebody has to do something on this. So, my turn came up on this. So I'm trying to wind it down on my end as rapidly as I can. Again, I'm still open for interviews and stuff, but what we've launched, I think, almost everything in that initial video. So now it's only outreach, which I'm kind of scraping the barrel for ideas on what I can do that I think will work, or it's already in government hands and we just have to wait. So, okay, questions. Oh, okay. Have you heard about the PirateSoftware Dire Mall incident? Yes, I have heard about that. A few people told me about it. I watched some on it. Okay, the summary, as I understand it, is he was playing hardcore World of Warcraft, where if your character dies, you've lost like 100 or hundreds of hours in it. So pretty high stakes, for a game. And he was in a group raid, and he performed poorly, as I understand it, and two of the people died. as a result, or probably died as a result. And then afterwards, he was really kind of sending to everybody and kind of saying that no, it wasn't him. And this is kind of surprising, apparently, because apparently World of Warcraft is his bread and butter. Like, if there's going to be good at any game, it seems like that would be it. I'm this part I'm going by hearsay. I am not. I have familiarity of World of Warcraft in some ways. High-end raid mechanics, no, not at all. Like, I'm not qualified to talk about that at all. But it's kind of spiraled out of control for him because he kept doubling down that he did nothing wrong. And then he was threatening, or maybe, he banned thousands of viewers who were giving him crap about it. And then he went and either made, I don't know if threats are the right word, or saying that he was going to go after people on Twitch and try to get them banned who were making content videos on this in the way that he interpreted as malicious, which I don't think many people, because of course people are going to want to cover like a big public raid screw up. I mean, that's good content regardless. And since he was threatening to, again, maybe threatening is the wrong word, to go after content creators, like his guild banned him for that. And then it's just been going poorly since then. Now, I don't have ill will towards him either way. Like, whatever. The benefit I'm getting from this is maybe this is waking a few people up who thought this is hurting his credibility for how much of an expert he is on things. Because if he's a World of Warcraft expert, what's he doing making rookie mistakes is the narrative. But from what I saw of the video, it felt like deja vu. The way he responded to like his guild and the World of Warcraft community felt extremely similar to how he handled Stop Killing Games, where, he cut out and refused to talk to some people. And he was doing stuff where you're not sure if he was being dishonest or he had deluded himself. And that happened with Stop Killing Games. Like in the raid, one point I heard was that he was hovering over, like he was saying he has no mana, and then around that time he was hovering over Mana Stone, which you can click on to give you mana, I think, or you can burn it to give you mana, and if the group for like an emergency or something. So the question is, did he know? Was he just kind of spacing out? Was he zoning out and he was just doing that through muscle memory and it never processed that he had the mana at the time? Or did he know full well he didn't have the mana and he just doesn't want to do it? I don't know. So, and see, that's how it was with Stop Killing Games. He misrepresented Stop Killing Games. He said it was about something else that it's not. So, and he was told that in the earlier videos that he deleted. So the question is, did he just think like, nah, this person's full of crap. It's about what I think it is. Like, because he was really focused on single and multiplayer and nothing about Stop Killing Games focused on that. Like, that's all stuff he made up for it. So the question is, did he know that and just insert this as misdirection because he doesn't want to have to engage it on our actual points, what the initiative is actually about and how this would be handled? Or he just never got it? I don't know. So that's what I'm saying. There were so many parallels with how he behaved in that. So it is kind of validating knowing that at least more people know now his MO with how he operates on this. Because, see, this is the sort of thing I was hoping to clear up with a conversation with him. And I mean, I could have done this in a totally civil way. I mean, I had that discussion/debate with Eliezer Yudkowsky where he thinks AI is an existential threat. I don't. I don't think I was unhinged and, throwing insults at him and not letting him speak or, going after cheap point. I mean, I was trying my best to meet him on his own terms and, explain it. So that's what you could expect from me if you wanted like a public discussion on it. So yeah, and the thing is, even now, PirateSoftware's video on Stop Killing Games is the largest one there is. Like, it dwarfs everybody else. Mine by a large margin, but even people like, Asmongold and Louis Rossman, I think it does for Asmongold. I'm not sure. Maybe Asmongold passed it. Well, anyway, the point is, so that's what a lot of people have seen. And when they go there, they're getting incorrect information about the movement. Now, I can't say if that was intentional or not. I don't know. It's wrong. I mean, I know that. And he refuses to discuss that. So seeing him do this in a very, very public way where it's basically not just my community or people who are interested in the topic that know about it, and now a lot of the internet knows about it, that feels a little better. So my only message is, if you're against Stop Killing Games, and it's because of what you heard from PirateSoftware, I think he represented Stop Killing Games as accurately as he represented his behavior in World of Warcraft and towards the World of Warcraft community. Yeah, like he said, the guild he was in was something like, it was built on hate. And from what I saw the guild, it didn't look like that. It looked like they're built on trying to have a wild time or something, like, So yeah, I guess one thing that is a little frustrating on my end is that there seems to be very little cross connections between people realizing what he did in World of Warcraft versus realizing he basically did the exact same thing earlier and Stop Killing Games. And it would be really great if we could kind of bridge those a little bit. Yeah, hey, any World of Warcraft streamers that have an audience, if you want me on to discuss my end of this, sure. I'll as long as I can mention Stop Killing Games, we can talk about whatever you want. Now, unfortunately, I'm probably the wrong person to talk to about World of Warcraft in general, though we come up with some things. I know the lore. I know all the old Warcraft lore, or not all, but most of it. And I know chunks. I've seen most of the World of Warcraft world up to Wrath of the Lich King, and know some of the lore. Oh, and I think in one of my videos, somebody said I had a bad take on World of Warcraft combat. So maybe that would be a good thing to rehash if you needed topics. But yeah, if people want to make bridges, hey, my email is rosswscott@gmail.com. See, my purpose in this is not to trash talk Thor. I mean, I'll be honest. I'll say what happened. It's not to trash talk Thor or PirateSoftware. It's to campaign for the movement, because I still want this initiative to pass. So if I can at least mention that to a lot of people who might not have heard of it and they're getting some entertainment on the other topic, great. So that's where I stand on it. But yeah, it does feel good not feeling like we're kind of the lone group on this, because around the time that was breaking out and Stop Killing Games, I can't tell you how many people in comments I saw saying that Thor is this really knowledgeable and wholesome streamer who always has good advice and is reasonable and takes like these, willing to listen to people. And then he sees my video and I get the Antichrist treatment. But the thing is, that wasn't the public perception. So it's like, yeah, a few people, his video completely dwarfs anything I've done. So, Stop Killing Games. So I'm just, it kind of sucks having somebody much bigger than you misrepresent you. Now, see, if he had come out against Stop Killing Games, but was honest about its betrayal, like, he's not saying it's about something it's not, that would be a totally different story, because of course you're entitled to your opinion on it. And you know what? I have enough confidence in my stance and being able to explain it that I'm totally willing to, discuss this on a public stage with opposition. I mean, I kind of want a sizable audience because, again, my focus is on getting those signatures. But I think my side of it is such a strong stance, I can win people over on it. And maybe Pirate Software knows that too, and that's why he doesn't want to talk to me. Again, I can't claim to know what's going on inside his head. So yeah, I will say this. If I had to argue against my stance on it and against me, I wouldn't want to because it's a rough. It's not it's not a popular counter argument because you basically have to argue that it's better that companies be allowed to do kind of whatever they want on this issue, and customers should not be entitled to be able to keep their purchase, and that we should. I mean, there's a few arguments you can make, and I'm not going to say what they are because I don't want to give my opposition ammunition. But it would be rough. I would not want to take on that debate from the opposing side. So it's yeah. So if you know that, I can understand where you don't want to get into like a big exposure on me with this because see, that's the thing that always irked me about it because initially this was sort of thrust upon him on his stream by all his viewers and he hated it. I get that. I mean, he misunderstood it even worse there. And and then I offered to talk about it. He rejected it. And I mean, he was still kind of sending about it, but whatever. I can deal with different personalities. So my take from that was that, okay, this was kind of thrust upon him. He hates it. It looks like he doesn't want to talk more about this. Fine, I'll leave him alone. I'm not trying to be a pest about this. But then he goes on to make 2 more videos after that on his channel. And I'm thinking, well, what the hell? This is that's weak. Because if you just don't want to deal with it and don't want to talk about it, fine, I'll leave you alone. But if you're going out of your way to shine a light on it and you're refusing to talk to me about it, or somebody else who could hey, he could have talked to the official spokesperson, Daniel, on it. If he hates my guts personally, fine, get the spokesperson on. He can talk about this also, and see that's what feels weak is when you do care about this and you do want to make a lot of noise about it, but you don't want to have any counterpoint or clarification. You want this to be completely one-sided and shut down the conversation on it. I think that's weak. Now, if you just want this out of your life, yeah, that makes more sense. It's like, okay, I don't want to hear about this. I don't want to talk about it ever again. Just leave me alone. Okay, fine. So, I think there was one more thought I had, but I guess I forgot about it. So yeah, those are my thoughts on it. I guess misery loves company on this. So at least now I don't feel like a lone voice that knows that I would not classify him as the arbiter of, sensible thinking and understanding and wisdom. That's what I would say about Thor Pirate Software. Okay. Have you heard of Tower of Kalimanovo? They're saying it's a procedurally generated dungeon crawler RPG that's very explicitly trying to capture the Diablo 1 style. No, I haven't, but it sounds like one to add to my list. I'm kind of behind on updating my list there. There's plenty I need to get caught up on. Okay, here's a question I'll answer this one, but I have to be a little more careful about this one, because last time last time this invited more kind of inflammatory discussion, and it's not that that's necessarily a problem, but it's the sort of thing where sometimes you run into situations where somebody makes a point, and you know there is some truth to it, but some of it is also incorrect, but they're treating it like this is an absolute truth, and then they're building off of that, building off of something else, and then so it's like you have to unpackage so much just to even have like a productive conversation on it. Like an example I would give is, say somebody says all energy on Earth comes from the sun. It's like, well, I mean, like, originates from it. It's like, well, a whole lot does, but like geothermal energy, that's from gravity. I mean, the sun cannot exist in the core of the Earth. I think so, would still be hot just from like the pressure of gravity. But if they're making lots of these conclusions saying all energy stems from the sun, well, then it's like, well, we got to work backwards now, undo that and clarify. But then let's say that person has made they're on to point 5 that's built off of that, and then they've brought up 3 more points that have some truth to them, and then some other things are false. So it's like, it just becomes tiring having discussions like that. So that's what kind of happened last time on a similar question. So I'm going to keep this one a little more constrained in this particular, because this one can stray into territories that could be problematic for YouTube. Let's see. Okay, so they're saying last time you responded to their question about potential war and tensions building over the war in Ukraine and Poland being at risk, and they're saying, I think you kind of simplified it too much, focusing on just the aspect of nuclear warfare. They're saying, which is very unlikely to happen. Well, see, that's the whole discussion in itself, how likely it is. But what's more like, they're quoting, they're saying what's more likely to happen is World War III being ground warfare. The mutually assured destruction is being tested in an all-out war scenario between East and West. Okay, there's two basic points I have on this, because he goes on a lot. He is like a page worth on the question here, but it all seems to kind of stem from the starting point that I feel like we need to clarify. My understanding, I could be wrong, is that Russia has no plans or stated aspirations to invade a NATO country, which would be Poland. So if that's and everything he talks about seems to hinge on that, like that being a given. So I would need to see the evidence that no, this is probably going to happen. I believe Putin made a statement saying they have no reason to do that. Now you can argue, okay, well, he's lying because of X, Y, and Z. Well, then I need to see what's X, Y, and Z. Is there's like some intercepted military communique that shows like, oh no, they plan to be doing that. So, I mean, I would need to see, because if that doesn't happen, then there isn't an issue. So I would need to see like, what's the evidence that would happen? And I'm not aware. I could just be in the dark on this. So yeah, you can send me info on that. So I feel like that's the starting point for this conversation. But for sake of argument, let's assume, okay, there is evidence they have plans to invade Poland or something. Well, again, it's a NATO country, and part of the reasoning behind NATO is it is like a collective defense. So if they were to do that, that means that they're basically declaring war on a nuclear power, where even if Poland doesn't have nuclear weapons, the NATO agreement says like, okay, now it's on. And from that point onward, it could very easily escalate to nuclear conflict, like to the point where I would want to get out. So I don't think, from my perception, I don't know of a scenario where Russia or Putin would want to invade a NATO country and the risk of nuclear Armageddon essentially doesn't just spike up immediately. I mean, again, maybe somewhat, because, okay, there's a few scenarios I'm worried about, but the big one, and this goes back to like uncomfortable truths question earlier, is somebody brought up previously is Dead Hand. That's a program that was, well, not even a program, well, partially a program or what's the word, a protocol, I guess, infrastructure, where my understanding of it is the way it works is set up in the Soviet era, but it's still in operation to some extent today, is where there's a continuous signal going to some sort of missile. And if that, and there's backup power and redundancies and forward and everything. But if that signal gets interrupted, like it got bombed, well, then it's set to launch, and that launch broadcasts a signal to basically all nuclear sites to just go ahead and automatically fire at all prescribed nuclear targets, which would very likely be the what, Europe and the United States. And that might trigger hundreds of nuclear weapons firing automatically. So that's why previously when I said, like, you know, authorizing long range missile strikes hundreds of miles into Russia, I think that feels like that feels like madness of the highest order to me. And I feel like maybe enough people don't know Dead Hand exists. Look it up. By all means, fact check everything I'm saying or verify it. Like, because, and so maybe the attacking side doesn't want to start that, but it turns out, oops, they accidentally hit that wrong base, and then the rest of it goes off automatically, or I've heard it's semi-automatic, where there, like, I think there's like some potential to intervene, but if everybody's getting wiped out, this is like somebody said, like a dead man switch. So it's like, let's work backwards from that. Like, that's where, like, hundreds of nuclear missiles firing, which would, I think the United States has something similar of automatic firing. So we're talking about hundreds, maybe thousands of nuclear weapons firing. That's the scenario, like, I just think is just, I find it complete insanity to even flirt with or just even, like, approach. So, yeah, those are my main thoughts on it. First, I could be ignorant, but I'm not aware of the evidence to suggest that Putin or Russia has plans to invade a NATO country. And if they do, they're well aware that could easily lead to nuclear escalation. So, and I really, really don't want us to have, well, of course, I'm being idealistic, but I don't want war in general. That's why I'm a big fan of diplomacy. But if we are going to have war, maybe let's not try to end the human race with it. You know, it's okay. Well, I don't think I should say more on that. I feel relatively comfortable saying all that. I think anything else would just be getting into the weeds on less important details that I'd be less informed about anyway. So, hopefully, yeah, I think hopefully we have some lighter questions left. Yeah, we do. Good. Have you played the Lord of the Rings Middle Earth games? Or or they lie too far outside your movie game enjoyability quadrant? No, I haven't played them, but what? I'm trying to think. Geez, I think I played a little bit of like a Lord of the Rings one that was like from back in the 90s. But my main interest in Lord of the Rings would be, I want to see stuff I haven't seen before, like from the movies, or that like wasn't, I guess mostly from the movies. Then maybe they took some artistic license to add some new stuff, or there's like maybe some stuff from the books that never really got a cinematic treatment, that sort of thing, or expand upon it. Like, I think there was it Mines of Moria game? Maybe I'll play it. I don't know. That one was like kind of on the fence about. But, and I would be more interested in Lord of the Rings Online, but, what I'm not a huge MMO mechanics and gameplay person, but I would like to be able to kind of explore Middle Earth. So yeah, I tried playing some of Shadow over Mordor. I think that's the one. Uh, um, and I didn't really get into it. I mean, combat was like okay, but the setting Mordor wasn't the most fun setting. It's just kind of a bunch of mountainous wasteland. So I don't know. It just there's so many games now. It just didn't hook me in, and I want these games that really like reel me in. You know. So uh, okay, wow, there's some good. Okay, somebody's saying, can you watch Andor? I haven't seen Andor. That I should probably watch The Mandalorian first. I haven't seen any of the Star Wars shows. Who's asking the first game I ever played? I don't remember, but I I think one of the earliest might have been River Raid for the Commodore 64. That's the first one I can kind of like. I think in my memories, my thoughts tell me that wasn't the first, but that's the earliest one I can remember. So I remember thinking that's not the first one, but it's pretty close. It would probably have been second or third or something. Okay. Okay, well, I'll answer more live questions in this. Let's see. We're like 90% through the questions, so just give me a little longer. Okay, there's 4 questions left, and we'll see if I answer those. So give me those, and I'll take live ones. Would you consider putting the giant frequently asked questions, giant fact videos on the Stop Killing Games website itself? I might, but there's 2 things. One, that video is all in English. And the Stop Killing Games thing is meant to be as international as possible. And while we haven't done a great job in every language, some are better than others. So that if we add all of that in there, like especially if we translate it to text, like if we link to the video, then it's just in English. And then if we just put the text in there, then that's a lot of translation to do. So the thing is, I would do that if again, I'm in this mindset where we got to cross the finish line or it's nothing for the European Citizens Initiative. So, because without the European Citizens Initiative, we have the 3 consumer agencies and we have the UK petition. I think that's it. And the 3 agencies, they're all underway. We can't stop that even. We couldn't stop that even if we wanted to. And the UK petition, yeah, we can keep doing campaigning for that, I guess. So I guess maybe it would help with that. But I think for the misunderstandings, I think the people who would sign this, but they have a lot of hesitancy about what they've heard, I still think that's a minority of people, like a pretty small. I think those are real marginal ones. Because I think we got 250,000 just like it was nothing until we started getting the pushback. So signatures for the ECI. So I feel like that's not going to make the difference for getting us to 1 million. I feel like the biggest things are just breaking into new audiences, and that I'm not the best at that, unfortunately. Somebody's asking, what do you think about TAA, temporal anti-aliasing? Do you think modern games look blurry? If you do you think it's a fad like the yellow filter of the late 2000s, or is it here to stay? I'm actually not sure what to think about it because it does introduce some blur, but in most of the games I've tried it in, for me personally, it was an acceptable level. But then I keep thinking back to like The Crew 2, where there's like that really noticeable blur in the distance, where it almost feels like it's like a really light level of depth of field. But like everybody says that's because of temporal anti-aliasing hard-coded into the game. And I'm thinking, well, that one's really bad. That one is like what it's like having an astigmatism. So, whereas I think I played a bunch of games with TAA, but one I remember offhand is Far Cry 5. I remember TAA being all right for that, for my taste. I mean, But for people saying they see the blur, it does introduce blur. So I'm not trying to negate people who hate it. I mean, I think it should be an option you should be able to toggle. I mean, that seems obvious to me. But so I don't know. Is it just like the values that you put in there that makes a difference? Where some games can do it really well and others just can't? I mean, because TAA, it tends to pick up stuff like it's gonna do a better job, in my opinion, than something like FXAA or SMAA. It's not going to be as good as multi-sampling for geometry, but it's going to be a lot less intensive than multi-sampling, and it's going to cover the alpha textures also, which multi-sampling won't. So I think it's like I kind of look at it as another option in the toolbox. Do AMD cards support it? It's not just a NVIDIA exclusive thing, is it? Because I've honestly lost track. Yeah. Fun fact: AMD did temporal anti-aliasing first, except it was like back in like 2003 or something. They had it for a few titles and then they just retired it. I think it wasn't as good. And then much later, NVIDIA came along and did it. It's the same thing for tessellation. AMD was doing it first before DirectX 11 back, again, early to mid 2000s. So, somebody's saying Josh Strife Hayes is streaming again. Want to raid into his stream? Hey, I have a better idea. What if you can communicate to him? Ask if he'd like to have me on to talk about the UK petition sometime, or if he doesn't have to have me on, but he could just see if he'll talk about the UK petition. Like, I mean, hell, I could even do it after this if you want. I mean, it'll be kind of an endurance round, but hey, I'll conform to what works, you know? Okay, 2 more questions, then we'll go to live questions, and then we'll see what happens. Maybe that's the best way to reach streamers is to raid into their streams. You know, that might actually work, you know, as a way. I don't want Twitch to think that's like a harassment thing, though, because I'd want to ask them if they'd be cool talking with stop killing games, but I don't want to, like, you know, be obnoxious about it. So. Okay, give me a second. Okay, 2 more questions. Let's see. Have you played or do you know of Cave Story, Hostile Waters, Antarius Rising, and Ring Runner? I know of the first 2. I played some of the first 2, but didn't get very far. I might give another shot at Hostile Waters. Ring Runner, Flight of the Sages. I don't know Flight of the Sages. So. Cave Story, I mean, it looked like a quality game. It's just thematically, it wasn't really drawing me in. Antarius Rising, my memory is blurry on. I need to look at it again. I think that was like an underwater kind of combat one, if I'm not mixing things up. Because I might be mixing it up with Archimedean Dynasty, which is like the prequel to Aquanox, but I think I played some of Hostile Waters. So. Just asked him. He said yes. Okay, cool. Well, okay, cool. Well, I mean, I can do it live, but I prefer appointments, but we can do it however he wants. Okay, last question. Okay, somebody's asking if I played Cyberpunk. Yes. Okay, so now I'll take live questions while people are sorting out the Josh Strife Hayes stuff. Okay, geez, there's a lot. Okay. Let's step away. Played through Atomic Heart. The writing is so good. Yeah, I want to play that one. Would you consider giving up your free will for complete, utter, oblivious happiness? It's hard to say. Hard to say. That's one of those, I'll cross that bridge when I come to it kind of questions. Because like, if it's just going to be misery central the rest of my life and free will, then maybe we should go for happiness. Got a link to favorite OSTs, soundtracks playlist somewhere? No, it's Chaos But I mean, I could probably give some notes, put together some notes sometime. Did you ever check out Cities? Yeah, I've played the Outer Worlds. I thought it was okay. I mean, it's it's weird. It's one of those games where I can tell a whole lot of work and production value went into it, but the overall impact is just kind of okay for me. So, will you make a sequel to Pigeon Hunters? I don't have any plans to. Okay, that one they already asked. Yeah, I'm catching up to the chat. Sorry. You mentioned hating all bugs and wanting them all to die, even though that would mess up the ecosystem. Oh yeah. Is this trauma from working in an entomology department? No, I just always kind of hated things flying in my face or, trying to crawl in your ears or just, I don't like bugs. Like there's a great quote in one of the X-Files episodes where where Scully's talking about like, well, it's not uncommon to have a fear of bugs. And Mulder's saying, no, I'm not afraid of them. I hate them. And yeah, that's how I feel about them. Like, I'm not afraid of them. I hate them. So yeah, I could identify with Mulder on that. Do you experience annoyance in real life with dithering effects like you just like in video games? No. So, do you think Diablo 3's real money auction house would have gone over better if it were a different game? Yeah, I might have. I still don't like that, but whatever. Different part of gaming than what I'm spending my time on. Okay, mentioned Just Strife, Hayes. Do you think about gender? What are your own pronouns? I'm male. This is one of those things where I feel like, I keep thinking back to Idiocracy, that quote where he says like, you should either lead, follow, or get out the way. This feels like a get out the way question for me. It's like I feel like questions on gender are best left to like medical professionals and psychologists. I don't have anything insightful on that. So. Okay. Cave Stories. Oh, Hostile Waters like Carrier Command. Okay, I guess I definitely need to check it out. I might be mixing up memories. I definitely need to escalate that because, yeah, Carrier Command was, man, it wasn't my favorite game, but I really liked the direction they were going with it, gameplay wise. It's like, yeah, let's, because you have a lot of, there's a lot of games where you look at like the early ones and then later it practically sparked a subgenre of games where you see all these evolutions and stuff. And I feel like the Carrier Command stuff, it felt like that. It's like, I want to see what like the next one is or the spiritual successor is to like, cause there's some great gameplay ideas with those. So. Reach out via Discord. Okay, cool. Great. Thank you for the, I'll send him. I did send him an email, but that probably got filtered by his handlers. So, have you considered reaching out to GOG in regard to Stop Killing Games? Yes. In fact, I think there's a promotion right now with they had a video where it's being mentioned. Let's see, Raziel or Kane as an ally. Ooh, as an. Okay. Depends on the circumstances because I think Raziel is less likely to backstab me, but if Kane and I are aligned on our goal and like he knows I'm not trying to usurp his power, Kane would probably be better to have on your side. Though I guess Raziel is more powerful because he has his soul shifting, but he's more hesitant, whereas Kane can be a man with a mission. So Kane would be more relentless. So yeah, I guess if we're aligned in goals and it's clear I'm not trying to usurp his station, then Kane might be better. But I don't. But then again, he might just see me as food. So it's and Raziel would have more of a conscience. So. Yeah. Kane strikes me as someone who wouldn't backstab you just for the hell of it. Like, he would have reasons to do it. So if you're a non-threat and there's no utility in him backstabbing, he seems like he'd be fine just ignoring you. So it's yeah. Kane's an interesting character. He's like one of the best gaming anti-heroes. Yeah. Okay, in one of the early episodes of Freeman's Mind 2, Eli appears on the screen during the teleporter cutscene. What the hell is he doing when he says, "That's not who I think it is it?" Okay, wait. It looks like he was covering his face in disbelief. I've never seen his character do that motion in the actual game unless it's a byproduct of modding. I don't know. I mean, if we did it, unless who is it? Oh, what's his? God, I feel dumb forgetting his name now. The guy who does some of the map edits in Half-Life 2. He's in the credits. I feel stupid forgetting his name because I've seen it a bunch. But what? Unless he did a fix in there that was just lying around, I don't think so. I don't think we mod. Let's see. Do we mod the one? I don't think we modded it until like the Barney one, maybe, or maybe that's an idea I scrapped. Like, we definitely modded it by the time we got to the boathouse. But if Half-Life 3 does happen, do you plan to make Freeman's Mind 3? I'm not committing at this point. Let me get through Half-Life 2 first. Let's see. Okay, they posted this clip. Current loves hearing about anything about Pirate. Yeah, sure. You can clip anything I said on this one. I mean, Well, I tend to assume that anyway. The last time was just kind of a freak exception. And even then, I would have still left it. I mean, I didn't like how I was kind of baited into questions I wasn't really prepared to answer. But it was mostly the YouTube concern. This time, I don't think I said anything that's a problem for YouTube. Expand on hostile waters, near future with nanotech, where previously powerful people tried to disrupt utopia strategy. Yeah, that sounds right up my alley, that kind of setting. So, what games have you 100% or essentially 100% completed or wanted to complete? Jeez, I don't know. Well, I'm sure I've done it for a few, but it was probably just... it was probably a game that wasn't too difficult to 100%. Or for some things, I did like I didn't 100% them, but I did certain things where I went out of my way. Like in Mirror's Edge Catalyst, I found all like the hidden packages and switches and stuff. Just because that was an excuse to explore the map. And I really enjoyed the atmosphere of the game. In, I think, Assassin's Creed Rogue, I forget what you had to do. I think it was like assassinations to get like this special cool looking coat to go with it. And it was the sort of thing where I was kind of enjoying the world anyway. So I thought, okay, yeah, well, I didn't really care that much about getting the coat, but it's like just sort of a fun excuse to see more of the world. I think it was to get like the assassinate. Like, I could figure out which coat it was and what you had to do if I looked at a list, but I'm sure there's others. But it's like that's the sort of question that how much my brain cares about 100%ing something is almost negligible. Like, it almost doesn't care. It's like I'm just kind of caring about the whole experience. I think I did. Okay, I'm pretty sure I did 100% Reventure. I think I needed to look up one or two hints for it to figure it out, though. So, but yeah, I did a lot on my own. Yeah, Reventure was... that one was surprisingly good. Like, that one was... I was going in expecting it to be interesting or okay, see what it's like, and I found I liked it more than I was expecting. Working on a space tabletop where we are taming the solar system, but life still sucks. Jobs, government corruption. Any suggestions of video games or stories? Well, I guess it depends on like how hard science fiction is this? Is this more like science fantasy, or is it like you want to? It's hard science fiction except for things that are like really inconvenient. Like it needs to take you months to get to Mars or Jupiter or something, or is it or is it just yeah, it's in the solar system, but we can kind of do whatever we want in there. Or is it more like Rama, where like almost everything in there could be plausible? Have you had time I haven't played Sonic versus the Darkness yet. Guys, it's only like this last week I've had even like a little bit more than average of free time. Because I was hoping to have more after the Christmas stuff or after Gothic, but then the campaign stuff started popping up again. It's like, oh God, okay. So I had to kind of, because we had to get the Discord launched and we had to get the UK petition going. So, or I had to make the videos for that. Yeah, yeah. Like I said in the video, that UK petition video, there's no way I would have gotten that out the same day it opened if I had it like I had already went through and recorded the footage ahead of time. I had already voiced it. I had already I gotten help from some volunteers on like some of the audio filtering or trimming to kind of clean it up for me a bit. So that was all good to go, and I basically just had to edit it. I'd even made some of the slides for it. That takes time too. But no, I want to play. I am gonna keep working on stuff, but I kind of do want a bit of a break to play more games this month. Oh yeah, that's an idea I had. Okay, so if there are other streamers that if you think the best way to get their attention, and this won't be, I would say right now, don't harass them about this, but just kind of politely ask if best way to get their attention would be for me to just raid into their streams after this. Maybe I could do some more kind of gaming streams, and then we pick somebody to raid into afterwards, and just politely in a not overly pushy way ask them if what ask them if they would be interested in talking about Stop Killing Games. You don't have to push me at all, but you could. And I think the natural candidates would be probably at this point maybe UK stream. Well, really any. I mean, but UK ones just because the petition's going. If they're interested in talking to me, great. If not, but they're willing to talk about the Citizens Initiative or stop, the UK petition, just as good. So yeah, you guys can brainstorm. You guys are gonna know better who would be candidates than I would. I'm out of touch when it comes to streamers or a lot of YouTubers, that sort of thing. So, do you like Deep Rock Galactic? I liked it kind of thematically, but I didn't quite get into it. I'm not the biggest fan of like whatever the term is. I call it like Left 4 Dead kind of gameplay, where you have like a small squad and you just go in with like endless enemies and try to get some objective and get out of there. I can see why people would like it. It just wasn't quite clicking with me. Like, it's the sort of thing where, like, if that game was changed to have like more of a storyline, and then you're just kind of going in deeper and deeper, or something like that, and things start happening, and maybe they're not, and maybe it's not like endlessly respawning enemies. I think I would like it like way more. But okay, those are extraction shooters. That's the term for those. Yeah, I guess I'm not, because okay, see, extraction shooter can be a little different though. Like, okay, or maybe that is the term. Yes, okay, so those could be extraction shooters, and then I don't know what the term is for something else I'm thinking of. How would you describe something more like Counter-Strike, where you have to go in and rescue the hostages and get out, or or escort the VIP, or something? If those aren't extraction shooters, what's the terminology for those? Okay, yeah, somebody's saying a horde shooter. Yeah, that might be closer. Well, we'll see. Oh, because there's like a wave shooter, and I would think of something like Killing Floor as being like that, like a wave shooter. And I would think a horde shooter might. I don't know. There might not be established terminology for all these terms, but okay. And somebody's saying hard science fiction, no fiction. They want no magic. Okay, so hard science fiction. All right. I guess, like, I think you might have to still invent some sort of power source to. But okay, yeah, that person wanted it like real gritty. Oh, there's a movie you might want to watch. Oh, geez, what is the name of it? I think it's Europa something, where it's about trying to find, where they're taking a hard-ish approach. Europa Report. Yeah, you should probably watch that. That might give you some inspiration. Let's see. Okay, so I'm trying. Oh, okay, yeah. Here's a concept. Depending on how developed you want it, that was a concept they did in the Rama prequel, even before it went off the rails, where they started with a real good premise, but it just took a complete U-turn where it was going. Where there was already a Mars colony, but like political turmoil had disrupted things on Earth, and it looks like supplies were gonna get cut off to the planet. I mean, to shipments to coming to Mars, and that meant that this was going to turn the entire colony into like a hard survival situation, and it was leaving like riots and just kind of chaos and things breaking down. Well, that's a theme you could extend to a lot of space outposts, and if for fiction. So that's one idea to work with. Uh, or you could kind of take some inspiration for like space travel. If something goes wrong, things can get really rough. Like there's a few movies on that, but what was the movie that was like that? Jeez, it's like where they had too many people in the shuttle, and it was gonna come down to like probably having to jettison someone because there wasn't enough oxygen. I think there was like more than one. It's not the best ever movie. Another one you might want to watch though is I forgot the name of it. I had a clip of it in Martian Gothic. It has Brad Pitt in it, and he's like kind of traveling to the moon and then traveling onward from there. You can figure out the title, or sure the chat will. Again, it's in the Martian Gothic episode. I have footage from it. But yeah, just show how things can go wrong and it becomes pretty precarious. Ad Astra, thank you. And yeah, I've seen Sunshine. Sunshine, I kind of remember being a little less realistic, but it's been a while since I've seen it. Okay, a few more questions. That's what Road Core is going to be. Okay, great. Never stop. You're the man, man. Never stop being you. Well, as a wise man once said, I am what I am. Yeah. Popeye's entered public domain now. I was thinking for that era, that's like one of the better intellectual properties to have enter public domain. I wouldn't mind seeing more Popeye if it was done well. Popeye is a solid. I think Popeye is a solid role model. Thanks. Do you have any opinion on pleonasms or other? Again, I don't know that word. Or other redundant manners of speech. Examples are falling down, hot fire, or some stating. Also, like something to, not really. What I like are kind of colorful ways of saying things. Like, let's see, like he's dumber than a bag of hammers, or it's not the sharpest tool in the shed, or kind of like embellishing it with phrases like this gave me a flashback. One of my favorite, what grew to become one of my favorite characters in Looney Tunes was Foghorn Leghorn, because he would have plenty of those. And like the more elaborate it gets, if it's slick and sounds like this is authentic, the better. Like, so yeah, I wouldn't mind more. I wouldn't mind looking up more phrases like that. So there, uh, let's see yeah, I'm trying to blank at some of them now, but especially ones that have, oh geez, what was the, well, okay, I remember one I heard from a gym coach in middle school where he was like, I probably said this one before, where it's like, son, you're like a blind man looking for a black cat at midnight. No, son, you're like a blind man in a dark room at midnight looking for a black cat that isn't there. I love that. It's a few layers of redundancy into it. So. Have you watched Kung Pao? I'm not sure. No, I guess not. I've seen Kung Fu Hustle. So. Yeah, people were, yeah, to come back around, people were talking about jokes that don't get old. I like the scene with the lighter in Kung Fu Hustle when they're driving back and shaking up. Yeah, perfect. Somebody's saying you're as welcome here as a badger at a stone cold outhouse. Yes, exactly. I love phrases and colorful expressions like that. So, okay, I think that's it. I think covered everything that I can remember to cover. I'll put this up. Yeah, maybe tomorrow. I'll see. Yeah, so more videos are coming, even though it's going to be a little bit slower pace for me for like at least the next week or so. But yeah, and hey, if anybody wants to reach out about Stop Killing Games, well, okay, I say anyone with a sizable audience. It's not that I think small YouTubers aren't cool or like you're not. That's not it at all. I'm just thinking tactically, because if you only have like 30 viewers or something, it's like, well, then it's just kind of like talking to a mirror, and that's not going to lead to any signatures. So, no, I actually had the thought that like it might be kind of fun to like just have like maybe game sessions with like random small YouTubers or well, whoever. It just that would be interesting in it. That just seemed like they were fun people to hang out with. So, let's see. Discording Josh. Don't worry, I'll do it. But yeah, so that's it. It's absolutely not a status thing at all. Like I mean, if I was to pick who I'm gonna, if the numbers weren't an issue for the signatures, and I was just gonna join somebody talks, I would just go with whoever just seems like the most fun to talk to. That would be my only metrics. So. All right, I think that's it. Okay, so I'll go ahead and end this here, and then we'll figure out if I can raid into another channel. So, see ya.